March 24th, 2021. I'm going to call the meeting to adjourn at 7 o'clock. And if we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first is the approval of the agenda. We do not have any changes that I'm aware of tonight. Therefore, it will be as is. If we can go to the approval of the minutes for the March 10th, 2021, I will entertain a motion to approve minutes as is.
Madeira and Duchatala, motion to approve the minutes for March 10th, 2021.
Christy Laporte, second.
Any discussion at this time? Would any member have any corrections to these? And you could lower your hand so now we can just see if anyone has any corrections. I'm not seeing any corrections, therefore we will do a roll call vote. All those in favor can say aye, anyone opposed can say nay, or you can abstain. Dana?
Aye.
Griffin?
Aye.
Rini?
Aye.
Lord?
Aye.
Jacob?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Madhu?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, therefore motions are approved as is. Okay, at this point, we're going to go on to the public participation. And since we seem to have a lot of participants today, I'm going to read through this. The members of the Tolland Board of Education welcome members of the public to share their thoughts and ideas at this time. When appropriate to do so, members of the board and the administration may respond to comments during points of information. However, in consideration of those in attendance and in an effort to proceed in a timely manner, follow-up discussion may take place outside of the meeting setting. We will have Jacob tonight. It will be our timer and we'll provide a visual and a vocal 30 seconds. If you could just raise your hand. And then also once called upon, if you could please state your name and address for the record. So at this time, if the public would like to speak, please raise your hand. And if you are on the phone, it's *9, I believe, right? I'm not giving out false information, Dr. Willett.
You're right, you got it.
Perfect. I'll give everybody a minute because I know if anyone did the update, I can tell you it's hard to find the hand. Let's go to Liz Costa.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you. Liz Costa, 54 Josiah Lane. We'd like to personally thank Mr. Poland, who took time to speak to all of our students individually and asked about their future plans, ask what they would like to see about future senior activities, and get to know them since his first year's AP was largely during a pandemic. He took a personal approach to getting to know our students, which is obviously more labor intensive. I personally appreciate how he's explained as monthly parent advisory meetings, his ideas allowing each attendee to weigh in on what he's thinking. And finally, I appreciated that he's availed himself to parents of the senior class in his most recent attempts to keep all of us informed via Zoom. I certainly know that he, Dr. Willett, nor this Board of Ed has all the answers, given the governance that is not coming from them, but from the AHD, the CDC, and the governor. That said, the class advisors and others who have put on many graduations in the past and now together with a group of seniors are trying to plan fun activities and appropriate graduation for our times. I'm worried about if we don't allow these people to do their jobs, will they want to do it in the future? The work is thankless. They do it for the love of our students, and they've always done an amazing job. We would love to see an outdoor graduation personally for the health and safety of our students and for the inclusion of all students of 2021. While we know it's a recent tradition to have an indoor graduation, and outdoor graduations do not come without complications of rain dates coupled with project graduation dates, I would love to see if new traditions can be explored to have an outdoor graduation in the future. However, 2021 should be about including all students in any way possible, and focusing on that should be the only concern. I hope it includes the last year's parade, as that was a lot of fun to watch. I trust Mr. Poland, Amy Steed, Mr. Weiss, Mr. Chahosky, Mrs. Keene, with the input of Dr. Well, to put on its outstanding group of year-end events. I don't want to dissuade their efforts, as it takes an army to put on these events. And we appreciate all the custodial staff and personnel from all the schools that do it. We appreciate you. It is clear that Mr. Poland wants to give all these seniors as much as possible within his power. Either way, he celebrates people every day. It's his natural tendency to do so, and we should trust him. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, let's go to Kay Laporte. Kay Laporte.
You might be muted.
I will.
Yeah, she's muted.
I will ask her to unmute. Yeah. And this is why we love video conferencing, right? We want to hear. but we cannot
Hello?
hear you. Oh,
Sorry. This is
Okay.
Christy Laporte. I'm on my husband's computer. For
Okay.
some reason I can't unmute.
Okay, perfect. You just need to
Sure.
list your name and address, and then you
You hear
will be
me?
given 2 minutes.
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So my name is Christy Laporte. I'm 39 Reed Road. I'm a mother of 4 graduates of Tolland High School and 1 current senior at Tolland High School. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are currently in a pandemic, and I fully understand the difficulties we face in our everyday activities. I do take the seriousness of COVID. I don't take it serious. I apologize, hold on. I do not take the seriousness of COVID lightly and believe that we need to follow safety guidelines at all times. As we see COVID numbers going down with some recent upticks, we also see massive vaccinations occurring in the state of Connecticut. Our governor, Ned Lamont, has reduced restrictions and continues to voice safety and COVID safe practices. Yet based on what I am aware of, Tolland Public Schools has not adjusted in anticipation of our senior activities. Senior events are being planned by administrators and class advisors without thoroughly listening and taking into consideration the senior class's desire to hold COVID-safe activities off campus and a graduation outside with the ability to invite more family members in a safe COVID manner. Instead, class advisors have been told that seniors will not be able to attend any events outside of the school property. They will be able to dress for prom for an evening at Tolland High School, where they'll watch a movie and eat cafeteria food in the cafeteria.
30 seconds.
There's no opportunity for senior prom, even though the students have asked the adults to join them to help them and secure an outdoor prom. The plan for an indoor graduation with 600 to 800 people, yet the adults will not assist in planning an outdoor prom for 250 students. This does not make sense to me. There are several other districts planning outdoor graduations, proms, and class day activities for their seniors, and I would like to see Tolland do the same for their seniors. I believe there should be a committee to support these seniors in planning a safe outdoor graduation, prom, and class day and night. I would like to be a parent representative on this committee, and I'm asking the Board of Ed to invite parents, school administration, and students together so that we can plan this for the best outcome for our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to, and why am I hear myself double.
No, something weird today.
Okay.
Sorry.
So at this point, would any members of the public like to have a say? Please raise your hand or *9. If not, we will be moving on. Going once, going twice. Oh, Alexis, I see that you just raised, oh, no, you didn't raise your hand, but you're clapping. Would you like to talk?
I'm sorry, yeah. My computer doesn't have the option to raise my hand.
Go ahead.
Okay, Alexis Laporte, 39 Reed Road, senior at Tolland High School. Good evening, Board of Education members, Dr. Willett and Mr. Poland. Thank you for placing our year-end events on the agenda tonight. I understand there's a 2-minute limit for speaking. However, I have a petition signed by 687 people and 140 seniors have signed up for the prom we are planning unaffiliated with the school. Therefore, I speak on behalf of many seniors at Tolland High School. I will likely go over the 2-minute limit. I want to start by saying I understand that COVID remains a concern and that while the numbers are way down from January, but ticking up to over 3% right now, year-end activities are still weeks away. People are getting vaccinated and will likely be in a much lower number by mid-May. I understand the complications of planning in a COVID world. However, I also believe we can be proactive in our planning. Starting in March 2020, current seniors lost the ability to attend school with a full-day academic continuity in Tolland. We have lost our junior prom, most of our winter 2020 sports and spring 2020 sports season, a football season, homecoming, senior Valentine, opportunities for social activities, gatherings, and lunch with our peers at school. We've endured cancellation, anxiety, depression, and many lost opportunities. While this pandemic has hit us hard in the area of social and emotional well-being, we feel our year-end events have been pre-planned without any input from us. Based on Governor Lamont's easing of restrictions, mass vaccination opportunities, and lower COVID numbers, the senior class should be afforded the ability to hold an outdoor graduation where all of our family members can safely watch us celebrate our graduation.
Excuse me.
Dr.
one
Willett,
second.
Ashley.
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Yeah, can we,
Yeah.
I think the problem is we have people with their mics on, and I
Well-
apologies, and Alexis, just hold on one second.
Yeah.
People
Dr.
that
Willett,
have, we have to have
definitely-
everybody mute their mics.
I know
Except for
David
Alexis.
Laporte does not have it muted, and I think it's bouncing off in between them. So if you could mute him,
Okay.
that user.
All
'Cause
right, David,
It's just
we're
muted,
muting
it's
you, but
fine.
it's nothing personal. It's just so Alexis can talk. All right, I think we've got it, but anyone else who just, let's mute them so that it doesn't have that back effect.
Absolutely, if you could just, because I could not hear. Alexis, let's go ahead and start you off from the beginning again at the 2 minutes. Jacob, just will restart because I don't know how much everyone heard, because I was like muting myself. I wasn't sure if it was me or.
Yeah, if
So-
it starts happening again, I'm just gonna try to mute everybody except for her, so.
Well, at this point, it should only be you, myself,
course.
and her.
Yeah.
So, perfect. Okay, so.
I can start over, yes.
Yep, go ahead. Jacob, restart. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, Board of Education members, Dr. Willett and Mr. Poland. Thank you for placing our year-end activities on the agenda tonight. I understand the limit for speaking. However, I have a petition signed by 687 people and 140 seniors signed up for the prom we are planning, unaffiliated with the school. Therefore, I speak on behalf of many seniors at Tolland High School, and I will likely go over the 2-minute limit. I want to start by saying I understand that COVID remains a concern and that while the numbers are way down from January, but ticking up to over 3% right now, year-end activities are still 7 weeks away. People are getting vaccinated and we will likely be at a much lower number by mid-May. I understand the complications of planning in a COVID world. However, I also believe that we can be proactive in our planning. Starting in March 2020, current seniors lost the ability to attend school with full-day academic continuity in Tolland. We have lost our junior prom, most of our winter 2020 sports, our spring 2020 sports season, a football season, homecoming, senior Valentine, opportunities for social activities, gatherings, and lunch with our peers at school. We have endured cancellations, anxiety, depression, and many lost opportunities. While this pandemic has hit us hard in the area of social and emotional well-being, we feel our year-end activities have been pre-planned without any input from us. Based on Governor Lamont's easing of restrictions, mass vaccination opportunities, and lower COVID numbers, the senior class should be afforded the ability to hold an outdoor graduation where all of our family members can safely watch us celebrate our graduation. Being able to celebrate graduation outside with all of our loved ones, dancing, laughing at junior and senior proms, enjoying our senior class outing and class night, knowing the Board of Education and school administrators gave us a happy ending to a less than desirable junior and senior year would ease the pain for many of us and look back at our last years at THS with triumph, not discontent. We depend on our senior and junior advisors to plan our senior prom, class day, and class night. However, they haven't been proactive in planning of the prom site. On behalf of the Tolland High School senior class of 2021, I implore the Board of Education and school administrators to give us the same events that you were afforded when you were in high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Let's go to Mary Rose DeBerrick.
Yes, good evening. It's Mary Rose DeBerrick, 37 Ryan Road. I guess I just wanted to share that my disappointment in the town council last night, not supporting the budget that you all worked 10 weeks on, worked so hard on as a group and sent forward to the town council. I actually feel bad for you guys. I mean, you worked together for weeks, worked very hard on this. Zoom has allowed all of us to be able to get a view into what you went through. So it's difficult, obviously difficult. I'm sad to see the budget cut. I'm actually sad to see that all your efforts are not necessarily as appreciated as they could be and respected. And I hope in the future that the town council listens to what you have to say and move forward with our schools. One thing last night I didn't get to hear everything that was going on. I was happily passing out Munson's candy fundraiser in the TMS parking lot. And the fine parents of TMS families and other families that support those children we were able to raise over $1,300. So for our kids in our schools. So that's all I wanted to say was thank you. And hopefully the budget that is put forward to our community, that our community members vote for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mary Rose. If there's any other members of the public at this point, please raise your hand. If not, we will proceed on to correspondence. Anyone else? Okay, we will, oh, Willow.
Hi, I'm sorry. Willow Golden, 127 Greyhaver Road, Tolland High School senior. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that I'm also in full support of the Tolland High School prom and the Tolland High School outdoor graduation. However, I feel that the graduation is most important, and I know a lot of our class is really willing to make this work. I agree with having a committee and having any sort of fundraisers, anything we need to do. I believe it's really important to have our whole family there and be able to do it in a safe COVID manner outdoors.
Okay. Thank you very much, Willow. Once again, anyone else from the public would like to speak, please raise your hand. Okay, let's go to correspondence. Jacob, I'm hoping that you have our correspondence for the last two meetings.
I do.
Perfect.
All right, so we received an email suggesting that the board create a special education teacher parent organization. The author suggests that the committee could be a subcommittee of the PTO as well and offers to lead the proposed organization or committee. We received an email expressing concern over the lack of full-time in-person learning. The author questions the purpose of the Board of Education when it does not have a role in the decision to reopen. The author also discusses the budget and expresses concern over the joint Town Council Board of Education meeting. In particular, the author felt that the Board of Education needs to salvage its relationship with the Town Council and should have spoken more at the joint meeting instead of the superintendent. Received an email appreciating that students will be able to attend school in person 5 days a week. But disappointed that the students will not be back to normal school hours and will remain on an early release schedule. The author feels that asynchronous learning is unproductive. An email appreciating the cooperation among Board of Education members and the superintendent and advocating that the Board of Education persuade the Town Council to adopt its budget and not endorse the town manager's reduction to the Board of Education budget. An email expressing concern over possible reductions to the Board of Education budget and dismay over how town council members treat the budget process. The author urges the adoption of the 3.19% increase proposed by the Board of Education. An email asking that the Board of Education, or asking what the Board of Education is doing to fight attrition to other school districts, magnets, and charter schools. The author urges the adoption of the 3.19% increase to ensure a sustainable future for the community. An email from a first student employee asking for information about their shot. I assume that's the COVID-19 vaccine, but it doesn't specify. Email urging the Board of Education to advocate for its adopted budget and oppose the reductions submitted by the town manager. An email apologizing for using the Tolland Public Schools logo without permission. The author stresses that there is no malintent. An email expressing concern over class of 2020 activities. The author feels that students were not adequately listened to and urges the school district to be innovative so it can provide an outdoor graduation and a more conventional set of senior end-of-year activities. The author expresses interest in leading a task force to assist in end-of-year activities and feels that they can be conducted safely within COVID-19 guidelines. An email asking about how bus routes are planned for Tolland Middle School students. The author requests that all students be picked up in front of their houses and not at intersections. An email asking the Board of Education to advocate for its adopted budget. An email requesting that Tolland High School hold a prom for the class of 2021. An email highlighting some resources to learn about and raise awareness over the issue of global warming. An email requesting that a senior prom for the class of 2021 is held. An email sent to the Board of Education, Town Council, and the Town Manager expressing concern about the reduction to the Board of Education budget proposed by the Town Manager. An email asking for the Board of Education's leadership and assistance as the Town Council discusses the Board of Education budget at its March 16th meeting. The author also asks about the $652,307 allocated for the geothermal project in the Board of Education budget and wonders why it is in the board budget if the buildings are town-owned. A letter sent by the class of 2021 officers outlining their perspectives of senior end-of-year planning and plans for an indoor graduation. The letter praises Principal Tolland for his efforts. An email sharing a resource that describes the experiences of people of color who work in school districts. An email sharing an article about bouncing back post-pandemic with regards to curriculum and educational standards. And finally, an email making the Board of Education aware of an email the author sent to the Town Council asking the council to not dismiss the Board of Education budget sent to it by the Board of Education. The author points out that both elected bodies are controlled by the Republican Party. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Jacob. At this point, we will move on to points of information, and I would like to open it up to board members for any commentary that they would have. If you could just raise your hand. Christy Laporte.
Thanks, Ashley. I just wanted to thank the students for their engagement. You certainly got our attention, and what you addressed today in public participation is on the agenda for our discussion. So will be to be continued with more information. So thank you.
Let's go to Jacob.
All right, so I just want to, we're going to talk about this later. It's also about graduation, but I did want to make it clear that during this discussion, I don't want anything that I say or nothing that I say should be construed as disrespecting staff or students. And I think that probably goes for all the board members. For some background information, I've had both of the class of 2021 advisors as teachers. I know a lot of these people from what all I've heard. Principal Tolland is doing an amazing job. I just feel that the petition that was submitted to us certainly gained some traction, and it has an audience. I believe it's a good idea to address these concerns. And hopefully tonight we can figure things out.
Thank you, Jacob. Let's go to Madhu.
Thank you. I also wanted to thank the students for speaking up. You know, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. Thank you for engaging. About the petition, I didn't actually see anything about the petition. I don't know what it was. So maybe I'm just missing something, but someone could share that with me. That'd be appreciated.
Hey, Dana.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I never trust these earbuds. So first and foremost, I want to thank all the students from that are getting involved and are passionate about opportunities for themselves today, tomorrow, and in the future, whether it be the students who spoke this evening. I do know that it is daunting to speak to a room of people, let alone a room of Zoom people. So that is, I'm appreciative of that, as well as the students who sent an email, specifically the student council. That was admirable. I am glad that we were able to put this onto the agenda this evening, because I'm sure Dr. Willett and Mr. Tolland and the rest of the administrative staff and the graduation committee, I'm sure has some some things that they would like to address as well and speak upon. So I'm glad that this is an area of opportunity and discussion. I definitely think that we need to follow a point of process. And I'm sure, and I don't want to put Mr. Pullen on the spot going when we get to the point, but I'm sure Mr. Pullen can speak very candidly and intelligently about what their committee and their team has done through the Tolland High School. I respect the process that the committees and the administrative staff have created over the last several decades. I know that we are in a different time with this pandemic, but again, we have to, I feel strongly and I feel very candidly, I appreciate the folks for the Tolland Public School System, starting from the superintendent to the administrators, to the principals, to the staff, to our educators. So I would look to our resident experts to help guide us through this process. So I do look forward to that candid conversation. To Mrs. Dubrek, I do appreciate your comments in regards to the budget. I am frankly disappointed. We started at a 3.59, I believe, and moved it down to a 3.19, which was unanimously approved by all 9 of us on the Board of Education, bipartisan event, and it didn't come easy to us. So I do look forward to our FFC meeting that we have in a couple of weeks. I do look forward to more candid budget conversations. But I do share some concerns that several board members did speak very candidly about the budget, in support of the budget, at multiple town council meetings over the last several weeks, other than one. So my concern is that if we all unanimously approved the budget, why would one of our members speak against the budget? So again, I hope that we can candidly have that conversation through this process, and I do look forward to further discussions. Again, to the students and the staff of Tolland Public High School, I look forward to in-depth conversation of what's to come for your senior year activities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dana. At this time, any other board members? Okay, Griffin?
I just wanted to actually, because I know they're speaking next, but I just wanted to congratulate Alexandra.
You took everything away. That's how I'm going to go to the next thing. But go ahead.
We don't speak during student representative, so I'm speaking now. So, all right, sorry, but Alexandra, congratulations on being named valedictorian. And I'm hoping that, you know, we'll have some nice discussions on graduation and how to best celebrate you and the rest of your senior class. So, and thank you also to the seniors who did speak just now. I know how difficult that is, and I'm just really proud of you guys for standing up for what you believe in, and I look forward to the discussion in 2 points. Sorry, Ashley.
It's okay. So what I would like to say is, obviously I love the civic engagement for our students coming through, creating a petition, getting names, reaching out to us. I love the letters. It's fantastic to hear from everyone. And as soon as I did hear from it, I did contact Dr. Willett, and I asked him to have Mr. Pullen come tonight to just review what is actually happening and just kind of walk the board through the process a little bit. And like I said, I give him a lot of credit for speaking to every senior. I don't know that all the principals would do that. So to go into everything, which is next, is our student representative report. So once again, congratulations to Alexandra Costa for being the valedictorian, and the salute Victorian is, I have it written down, Adriana Rhodes. I have that right? Perfect. So at this point, I like to go to Alexandra and Summer.
Sorry, that's my loud clap for both of you. Thank you. Congratulations, Alexandra.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. We don't have that much, but NHS is planning a blood drive in May. And we unfortunately can't do it at school, so we're looking for another place to do it, but it is going to be in May. And we already have many people from NHS willing to volunteer. Also, Student Council is having Spirit Week the week before April break. And also during this meeting where we decided we were going to have Spirit Week, the assistant principal visited, which was really nice. He got to know how Student Council works. And also I want to say congratulations to Alexandra. And you can continue.
Thank you, everyone. So the junior class took their SATs today. And then my screen keeps moving around. But as for senior activities, my screen just glitched. We are very grateful for all the time, effort, and care that Mr. Poland, our class officers, and advisors have put into planning our end of the year activities. We know that they've had to make many difficult decisions. I can't see anything. 1 second.
No problem. In the meantime, where are you attending?
I don't know where I'm going yet, but
I wasn't sure because I saw the picture with the UPenn shirt, so I was like, is she going there?
No, I didn't even apply. Right now, Northeastern's my top school, but okay, here it is. We know that they have had to make many difficult decisions, but truly believe that their compromises best accommodate our class's wishes. With that being said, we do recognize the benefits of an outdoor graduation from a health and safety perspective, and would be fully supportive if it could be done in a safe and inclusive manner. Okay, I think that's all.
Well, thank you very much to both of you. And once again, congratulations. That's a pretty big feat to overcome. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so at this point, let's go to the superintendent's report, which is the H1, the THS senior activities and graduation.
So if I can just take a minute to kind of lead us into that a bit. You know, we do have with us tonight, and my screen's moving all around too, so I apologize. But we do have with us tonight Mr. Poland. He is the principal of the high school. I just want to take a quick minute to kind of give him some accolades. He's, you know, he's done amazing work at the high school since he got here. I think everybody's had a tough pandemic year. And I know students are ready for something uplifting. I think everybody is ready and has that desire. And the students have been a great help. You know, the principal, Mr. Poland, has done a great job. More than 100 parents and guardians attended his Zoom meeting on February 25th to talk about all of these activities. The next scheduled meeting is tomorrow, I think, Mr. Poland. And principal, you know, basically, he offered meetings to all seniors in early March, offered to sit down with every single senior. And not only that, offered to have all seniors, any senior who wanted to, serve on a committee, invited all of them, took all of them. I think they had their first meeting March 11th. Second meeting was March 18th. And Mr. Poland and his team include staff and students. And I know they're working very hard to find the best way forward in holding events that are deeply rewarding for our senior students, while adhering to the state and health district guidelines, which are sometimes a moving target. And it's something we're always working on here. You know, we're all working hard. I know the students are contributing a lot, and we're all working to allow our senior students to be able to make memories of a lifetime together and avoid the disappointment that quarantines could yield at this time, and kind of wreck that for them. So Mr. Poland did do the great job of putting together a presentation for us tonight. Without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Poland to kind of talk us through it, and I will I'll do the forwarding, Mr. Poland, if you want to call out the slides.
Sounds good.
All right. There we go.
All right, so good evening, everyone. First off, let me just say my first year and a half here has been an absolute joy. Working in a district like this, you know, I've seen the passion that our school community has, our parents, our guardians. Every single day, our students come ready to go, ready to work, and I appreciate that. It's one of the best parts of my job is being out there every morning and seeing our students come in, parent guardians dropping off our students, and seeing their smiling faces and making sure they're ready to go for school. So I really do appreciate this entire school community and this community at large for all the support for me and also for our students. So I put together a presentation for you all tonight. So this is a second version of my presentation that I presented to parents and guardians on February 25th. So this is the more detailed version of it. This will be a similar presentation that I'll share tomorrow night with my second parent guardian meeting about end of the year activities and graduation. Really the objectives are just to provide you a progress update regarding the end of the year activities and present our next steps in the planning process. You can go to the next one, Dr. Willett. All right, so these guiding principles haven't changed. This is what I presented to our families on the 25th of February. We are going to continue to uphold safety guidelines related to COVID-19. You know, it's been a challenging year, but like I've said, our students continue to rise to the occasion when it comes to these guidelines to make sure that we have a safe and successful year and end of the year. So that's going to continue to be our practice. One of my main principles is keeping our class together for these events. I want to make sure that the class of 2021 has a meaningful end of the year together as one, as Eagles. I want to make sure that for everything that we do, we can ensure that loved ones have an opportunity to participate in the relevant experiences, either in person or virtually. Provide members of the senior class an opportunity to have ownership of the plan. So I'll talk a little bit about that, about the way we began. We started a student committee here that has our class officers, our class advisors, and seniors who expressed interest in being part of the planning for these events at the end of the year. And again, number 5 has been really my philosophy. My whole educational career is about doing what's best for our students, no matter what. So those are the guiding principles. So like Dr. Willett said, you know, once we got back from remote learning in January, I really wanted to make sure that I really got an understanding of what our seniors wanted out of the rest of their year. And also I wanted to make sure I heard them about their post-secondary path. That's really important to me. That's, again, a big part of my philosophy as an educator, is making sure I have a relationship with all of our students. It hasn't been easy. You know, it's been a very choppy year and a half here as an administrator in Tolland, just due to the pandemic and all that's happened. So I wanted to make sure I was very intentional with getting to know all of our seniors as best as I could. That's why I did these meetings and set them up. It was difficult at times, obviously, with some students were remote, some students are in person, and we still do have some meetings to be scheduled. So, but the purpose of those meetings was really just to listen to them about the end of the year. I did kind of run the scenario of what we're trying to plan for and to just gauge their feeling on it, right? And I would say the majority of our students felt good about what was going to happen at the end of the year. Also, we talked a lot about their post-secondary path, you know, and for students who were going into the military, or students who are going to a university or tech schools, you know, it was just great to sit down with each one of them. And I'll say this, parent guardians, you've done an incredible job. It really shows through our students what you've done their entire life as far as their parents and their guardians. They are incredible students, they are incredible people. And I continue to enjoy working with them every day and through the end of the year. Next one, Dr. Willett, sorry. That's backwards. Okay, so safety, there we go. Yep, safety guidelines. Okay, so this is the same slide I presented to parent guardians on the 25th of February. Early on in the process, Dr. Willett and I coordinated about, you know, what we wanted to present to parents and make sure that we could execute these meaningful events for our seniors and make sure that we can do them safely. Safety is the #1 priority in any year, but especially in a year like this. So we decided to really replicate these events here on campus at the high school. All safety protocols related to COVID-19 will be in place. We continue to wear masks every day in our schools, sanitize in and sanitize out, and socially distance where feasible. That's obviously still part of what we need to do with any of these events. As I said in these meetings with our parents and our students, that, you know, a lot of this is going to be dictated by state DPH and health district requirements. And that's just the reality of it, you know, and under that framework and under that expectation that we're going to have to follow, you know, we're going to try to plan for these events and execute the most meaningful events we can, knowing that that's an obstacle we face, right? And, you know, I set up the parent meetings to make sure I was proactive with parent guardians in our senior school community, to make sure that they understood the plans and they knew what we were trying to do and that they would have invested time in those plans. And obviously, we're going to get more detailed as we close the year, because we'll have probably more guidance and more clarity of what the year will look like at the end in June and May and June. So safety guidelines are there. So as I've already kind of discussed, I really want to make sure the students were heard, and I listened to them, and I was able to take what they told me, but also what they provided me in a survey to our class officers and our senior committee and who would be planning these events to make sure they have an understanding of what our students would like to see at the end of the year. So like I said, I've done the individual meetings. We've had 1 out of 3 meetings thus far with parent guardians. Tomorrow is the next one. So there will be a similar presentation tomorrow, maybe a couple more details for tomorrow's meeting with our parent guardians. After my initial meeting with the parent guardians, I felt pretty confident with this plan. There was a lot of positive feedback that I received and we received as a school community. I talked with some parents after that in person or over the phone. I met with some of our students and our class officers, and I felt very comfortable with our plan. And that's why that following week I sent out a survey. It was a pretty simple survey. And the reason I sent that out was to just gather ideas from our seniors about these events and the activities they'd like to see in these events, right? Because I had already put out the plans that this is what we're going to try to do and this is what we're going to try to plan for. So I wanted the students to build the activities for those plans and for those events. So in that same survey, I asked students, if you would like to be a part of the planning committee, just email me, right? And any student that emailed me or expressed interest, that's who became part of the planning committee. And as Dr. Willett had mentioned in his opening, we had our initial meeting March 11th. There was one last week. There's going to be one next week, and we'll continue to have meetings throughout this time, going toward the end of the year. As for the stakeholder environment specific events, graduation, we have obviously administration, we have a graduation commencement coordinator, we have 2 staff members, we have our class officers. Class day, which is what I'll get to in a second, is going to be our class advisors, 12th grade class officers, and all interested seniors, and that's where that committee came from. Same thing with class night. Next one, Dr. Willett. So really, these are the events that we're going to plan for. Evening of Excellence is a great event that we have every year. It's an awards night, not just for seniors, but a lot of it has to do with our seniors and the awards they'll receive. But also there's other students that'll be involved from other grades. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Talk about our class night, and I had mentioned in my initial meeting with parent guardians that we're really going to try to fold elements of prom into that. It really just depends on where we are as far as state guidance. I think there's a lot of planning going into this from the student committee that it can have much more of a prom feel. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Class day would be the following day, that Saturday, and I'll get into that. And then obviously graduation is planned for the 18th. So with graduation, we're currently developing a plan in the THS gymnasium. That's where we traditionally hold it, but we're definitely considering an outside option. In my conversations with our seniors and with some parents, I've always said, when push came to shove, if we were going to have an opportunity to have more guests with an outside venue, then we'll have that conversation. I think that's important. I think Dr. Willett and I would have a conversation. If we were able to execute an outside graduation, then we would have that discussion. I don't think that really has ever been off the table. So I just want to be clear with that. Friday the 18th is when we are planning to do that. The amount of guests, again, this is all based on state guidance, DPH, health district requirements. We really have to follow their expectations and their guidance. And I will continue, and we will continue to consider the factors of students and families' desires, health, safety, social distancing, PPE. That's not going away. I think we all understand that. And for these events, that will have to be upheld. No matter what, with all of these events, especially graduation, we're going to stream it to ensure that guests who can attend in person will be able to view the event. So we're following a pretty traditional timeline, with the graduation commencement coordinator, my administrative assistant, our class officers, and some staff members. We're following our timeline. We've ordered our diplomas, we've measured our cap and gowns, we've ordered our cap and gowns, we've submitted building use paperwork, we've ordered all the flowers. All right, we're working on a rehearsal date, which is going to be the 18th. It's a little bit different this year, obviously, to try to run a rehearsal due to the COVID guidelines, but we're going to still have a graduation rehearsal. We've secured the plan for chorus and the band to participate in the ceremony. So at this point in a normal year, that's where we would typically be as far as the planning and securing of different items for that event. Evening of Excellence, which is going to be a great night. That'll be June 1st. So that's a Tuesday. You know, typically it's 100 students participate in that evening. We'll do our formal invitations like we always do. Again, you know, we're going to see where we're landing with state guidance, DPH guidance, health district requirements. You know, and we will obviously have our students in person. That'll be the goal, as long as there's no requirements that won't allow us to do that, and we will stream that event too. So that'll be a great night. Class night, we're looking to plan for June 4th. Class night take place on Friday, June 4th. An event will include, so this is where we're going to try to fold elements of prom into this as much as we can, right? So this is, June 4th is going to be a night where students are going to be able to have a classy evening together. It will have elements of prom that will include taking our photos. We'll have photo opportunities around this campus. We're going to view the senior video. That's what we typically do on a class night. So that's element of class night. They'll receive their yearbook, obviously in a meaningful way. They'll receive their senior shirts, and then our student committee are really kind of building the activities that will also be embedded in that evening, which will include a meal. And we're going to work to incorporate elements of prom, like I said, and I'll get into that in a second. So really with social distancing, it's important that social distancing, wearing masks, and safety is our #1 priority, right? So we're going to have students sign up for groups of 55 so they can be stationed throughout the night and engage in different activities safely. There's going to be 4 groups, and they'll be on a rotation so we can maintain social distancing, enable food to be served in a timely manner, ensure everyone has ample time to take pictures, talk with friends. We're going to use bands, colored bands, wristbands to help with that. The student committee is really looking into vendors for food, music, and we're obviously researching just different activities that we can have on that night that are engaging. We're looking to possibly purchase some tents or rent some tents to make sure we can kind of bring it to the outdoors too and decorate in that setting to make it more of a prom feel. But again, as we get closer, if we can have more of that prom feel and have dancing and a sit-down meal, we'll absolutely do that. You know, I think that's important. I understand how important that part of prom is. I think we just got to see where we land with guidance, and if we can execute it, we'll do it. So this is still, I think you just skipped one.
Did I skip one? I'm sorry. Plan to that.
No, all right, there you go. So these are kind of just the abbreviated events, like we said, for that night. We'll have a reception. There'll be pictures. We'll have yearbooks distributed. We'll have dinner. Like I said, we're currently researching outdoor tents as the way to incorporate more of a prom atmosphere. And students will be able to view their class video, which is a pretty important part of class night. And this is kind of the timeline that we're looking for right now. It'll be 6:30 to 7 o'clock is the reception. We're still pretty much hashing out what the activities are going to be. And that's, again, being built by the student committee. Once students have been assigned a group, we'll let them know ahead of time, and their schedule will look like for the evening. So that was class night. And like I said, I really trust the senior class officers, the senior committee right now. Our class advisors are working extremely hard with that group, researching vendors, trying to make that very meaningful. And I applaud the work that has gone in thus far with that group. It's been very productive and positive. And I think class night can be a very meaningful experience for students as long as we continue to get the input that we need from our students to make sure it becomes a very meaningful night. The next day would be class day. So typically class day is held off campus. We're going to replicate that event here. And that's where we're going to incorporate that final kind of last ride parade, which I thought was a great hit last year. It was a phenomenal experience for our students and for our parent and guardians. So we're going to really try to make that kind of part of our tradition here, I think, in Tolland for the near future. So really making class day more of a informal day. You know, the night before is a classier night to get together and fold those elements of prom into it. And then the next day is more of an informal day where we can have a barbecue, we can have music, We can set up, different activities around campus. Again, these activities are being built by the student committee. And then like last year, we'll just invite parent guardians at the end, and we can do the parade through the town to celebrate our seniors one last time through the town. And obviously the town support was great last year. Different members of the community were waving and saying bye to our seniors, which I think was just a great event for the entire school community. So this is more specific to the plan. Again, this is straight from all the details of the plan. This is coming straight from that student committee and the class advisors and the class officers. So students arriving at noon, checking in at the front of the building, trying to mirror that Holiday Hill atmosphere, which is where students typically go, and setting up those activities around campus, making sure that there's food, barbecue, and then at 3 o'clock, after all the engaging activities are done, the food is complete, we'll go on to that farewell parade through the town. So food, keep saying food. So food, outdoor and indoor activities. Again, we'll use the entire campus, indoors and outdoors. We'll decorate cars. And I think, again, that was a big part of the experience last year. And then farewell parade through the town. And that's the timeline for the day, and that's June 5th. So really for me, next steps, we have our meeting tomorrow night, our next installment of the parent meetings that I've set up through Zoom, just to continue to inform our parent guardians of the plans. I do want to provide parent guardians a more formal opportunity to know and understand and provide me feedback and us feedback on graduation. And that was my plan really all along, is to kind of create this advisory council with parents. So specific to graduation, right? Because I know that out of everything, is probably the most memorable event for our seniors. So that was something I was going to present to parents tomorrow night, because in my initial meeting with parent guardians, I did set up a Q&A document that I posted in my digital backpack, and I posted on our end of the year activities website. And that was some of the feedback that I got. It's like, hey, how can I help as a parent for graduation? So that setting up that advisory council in a sense, so there's specific updates about graduation, and then also I can just listen, take feedback, and we can pivot as we feel necessary and adjust our plans as we feel necessary based on state guidance and what we feel is meaningful for our students. And then I'll just continue to advise and oversee the student committee. I really am allowing them to just run with it. I want them to make it their own and have those conversations and just really report back to me. I'll check in and be there, and but they report back to me. They talk to me about it. They're excited about these events. And then I'll obviously provide the input and the resources necessary to make sure that they are executed in a meaningful way. So those are the next steps. I'm looking forward to the meeting tomorrow night. I'll continue to keep that Q&A posted in the digital backpack. And tomorrow night, I'll talk more specifically about the Graduation Advisory Council that we'll just invite parents onto, and so we can work together to make sure that the end of the year is meaningful.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Tolland. I deeply appreciate you being here tonight, being able to share that. I do want to just throw a couple of things in, if I may, and then of course, Madam Chair, however you want to throw questions at is fine. I did want to just kind of clarify that we all really have the same objective here. We want to see these senior students have the best experience possible. And the students working on this with Mr. Tolland and the staff, they've shown great leadership, and they're asking all kinds of questions and looking for options, things like that. And the pandemic very, very well may force everybody outside for virtually everything. But to give a sense of things, when people look at some of this stuff, they look at capacity. The THS turf field, for instance, has about 1,014 seats. It's 994 plus 20 handicap. And then talking to the fire marshal initial assessment, about 200 can go around that track. So you look at about 1,214, 1,214 capacity. The THS gymnasium has 1,200 seats in the bleachers, 500 floor seats, and has a total of 1,700 seats. And it has a HVAC system, and it has a MERV 15 filtration system that takes COVID out. We're not probably going to be able to do that because I think just looking at how things evolve, the pandemic will probably be moving people outside. And again, that committee, Mr. Poland and others, they've been keeping that in their mind, and they're showing great leadership. It may very well be that that's how that falls, and that may be something that people want anyway. But the bottom line is, like, there's a rationale behind all of the conversations that are happening, and that rationale is essentially to do the same thing. Ironically, it's to maximize the number of available participants so that everyone can enjoy that experience. So ironically, right now, the gymnasium actually has a far higher capacity than that stadium seating does, even if you put people around the track. So, there may be, and I know we are exploring options, and those conversations are ongoing. But these are the kinds of things that people are thinking about. And with respect to having things in house, it's important to be able to have a situation where we don't end up, where we ultimately let our seniors down. And there's a lot of potential for that right now. The state's guidance is interesting. Being up until 2 o'clock last night doing contact tracing, waking up at 5 to do more of it. We live this. We live it right now. The senior students, this age group is 2 to 4 times higher to be impacted by COVID. And they're also in a group that's getting quarantined at a higher level. So, like, there are things that we can do in-house, and we know our staff, and we know the people. Those of you who have had weddings where you've brought the wedding stuff to the houses, to the locations, they can be awesome events. And we can make sure and do everything we can to make sure those events have a very small impact if anybody was sick, instead of having a bigger impact that might actually, ironically, remove these seniors from being able to have the memories they want to have. Ironically, we would take those memories away by having to quarantine people, and having to do that every day. I see what opportunities are lost in these kids' lives every time I have to do a quarantine. And the last thing I want to do in a 10 to 14 day period at the end of the year, because somebody did some poor cohort management, is tell a group of people that they can't participate in any one of these activities or graduation itself because we had a situation like that. So I think that there's a lot of thought going into this, and none of that thought is in an effort to limit what people are doing. That thought is in an effort to make sure we can protect the opportunity to do those things. I'm on the phone with the HHD every day. I know Mr. Poland's working very hard. And as you can see, there are many opportunities for people to participate and continue to participate. So I just wanted to throw it out there that really everybody is pulling in the same direction. And Mr. Poland and I were talking today about what potential outside options for graduation exists. And I know that will continue to be vetted. So.
Well, first of all, I truly appreciate the work that everyone has done toward this. I mean, whether it's the advisory board, the student board. Just by question, how many students are on that student advisory board, Mr. Poland?
So right now we have 8 seniors who expressed interest. We have the 4 senior class officers, so that's 12. And then plus we have our class advisors for our senior, those are the 2 adults. And then we also have our junior class advisors who are really helping, who don't traditionally support, they really support more with the prom, but they're helping with the end of the year events. So we have about 12 students and 4 adults right now. But honestly, I'm okay with more students joining that too. It's not a closed deal, so like if more students want to join and be a part of the planning process, I'm very much open to that. I think in my conversation, sorry, go ahead.
No, in fact, you invited all the students, right?
Yeah, well, in the survey I did. I expressed in the survey that following week after my initial meeting, I said, if any student would like to be a part of the planning committee, just email me. And that's how I created the committee, so that's how we did that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the clarification on that. I do have a bunch of questions, but the other one I wanted to ask too is in terms of the capacities of the outside field versus the indoor seating. I know that you were saying that there's only 12, 14 outside versus like the 17 that are inside, but what is the actual reality of having the spacing and the actual people that would attend? I mean, you're not looking to fill at full capacity. So
No, it's like cohorting. If you can put families together, we want to try to provide the maximum number of tickets, so to speak, possible. And so a family could be a cohort with a set of tickets, and then there would be a space, and there would be another family and a space and another family, trying to give families the opportunity to stay together because you don't want to spread everybody out so they're not near each other, but have the maximum number possible. And it is a tricky mathematical thing here that we're trying to work out, and we're not putting limits on it. We're looking at all kinds of different opportunities here, some of which, Mr. Poland and I were meeting on today, but it's just, looking to try to find the best and maximum number. And I think that we're going to get guidance through the health departments that are going to going to direct that towards, towards certain places, towards certain venues, towards certain actions, so we're likely going to be outside. It's just a matter of, how do we figure out the best possible way to maximize the number of seats and cohort people, essentially.
I mean, obviously from last year's graduation task force, we definitely have at least some history and some knowledge of what is what's able to happen and what's not. The other question I did have is, considering for the outside venues for like the prom night, I do know that some places, if you have an outside venue, they can close due to COVID contacting, if like say the staff or the kitchen staff has come down with something. And we're having the food venue through the school itself, correct? So are you having?
That's not necessarily set in stone. That is one option we looked into and the student committee looked into. But we're also looking into possible food trucks and different vendors within the community to support that night and the following day. So that has absolutely been part of the conversation, but that hasn't been definitively decided yet.
And to answer the other part of your question, Madam Chair, that yes, they're in the process of deciding who will serve them the food. But to your point of the venues, yeah, if somebody comes down with COVID or if certain things happen that that necessarily we don't have control over, that could stop us from using the venue at a very short timeline. Whereas if something happens to us, we have a far greater amount of flexibility to adapt to it and make sure that event still happens. Dealing with things last minute usually results in things not going so well. And, doing things and putting that energy and that heart and that love into it. I've seen absolutely amazing things at, within facilities. When I worked in Newington, they did the grad night. You wouldn't even know that this was a school, what they did to it. So it's possible to make something absolutely unbelievable and awesome and not have the risks of it falling apart. And these kids, these young adults, they've had enough of it falling apart. I mean, I realize there's this thing to get the heck out of the school, but enough has fallen apart this year. Let's have something, we want to make sure that these things don't fall apart on them in the last minute, that we can make sure that there's a level of stability that exists, and we can make sure that we're not locking them out of activities. So that food carts and things and bringing in food from the outside is definitely what they're considering, but also making sure we don't have cancellations or things that we, would then have to struggle to adapt to.
Oh, the food trucks are trendy, so.
Yeah, they are.
Everybody wants the food trucks.
Yeah.
And I will say that Newington's graduation nights are fantastic, being a former alumni. So they are awesome. So I would hope that we can do that for our students as well. Let's go to, I have more questions, but let's go through the board members and see how many I can cross off my list. Let's go to Jacob.
Right. Thank you again, Principal Poland, for coming tonight. Really appreciate the work that you're putting into this. It's funny, actually, I wanted you to come and speak to one of our board meetings when you first joined on the district, and things just kept kind of pushing that down the road. And it's not the greatest circumstances I get, but it's nice to finally talk to you. So One comment I had is I think that as we start to see what some of these ideas are going to be for, a potential class night or a prom hybrid thing, I can see some of the anxieties going away that some of our students have. It's an uncertain time, and this is very new for the district, so I can definitely see as that starts to become clearer, it might become less of an issue. But I am curious a little bit about the outside venues, because I do know there are a few districts, other districts that are utilizing some outdoor venue or some outside venues. If Tolland has talked to any other districts to see, what they're doing with regard to using outside venues, or if they've shared any other information with how they're approaching these issues. For example, Newington does it well. Has Tolland talked to any other districts about what might work well for this sort of situation? That go to Dr. Willett or Principal Poland.
Well, if you want, I can start. I can give my
Sure.
experience and then hand it over to Mr. Poland.
Yeah.
Because I know Mr. Poland's been focused largely on the kids and on the staff and so on. So I do have regular superintendents meetings. I belong to about 3 superintendents groups. I am listening to what each of these individual places are considering doing, thinking. There's a lot of hope, but there's a lot of frustration with some of the state's guidelines, what they lack for detail. Some of the things that have been left open or left out there or left for interpretation. Every week we have a DPH meeting on Tuesday. It lasts about an hour. Most of us, we really appreciate what the DPH is doing and those people that are doing it, but we come away with some frustrations about, again, lack of clarity, lack of where this is going sometimes. And so I think that, I'm hearing a lot about what different people are trying. Again, some of these places in the past, just, outside of the COVID pandemic, some of these locations do not have a facility big enough to have a graduation inside. We've always had an amazing high school with a gymnasium that can accommodate that. Not all districts do. So some districts have to go outside anyway, regardless of whether they want to or not sometimes, or rent a venue. But, I think for us, we are getting kind of a spectrum of what's happening out there. At least I'm seeing that. And, personally, again, none of these things that we're doing because this is the easy way out. I mean, certainly what's happening right now is actually putting more energy into it. I remember a contract that I had to actually work with the former principal on that had to be canceled. It was not an easy process. We've had other things canceled on us, and that was not when things were as complicated as they are now. That was sort of in an inception point. So some districts are doing it in-house. Some districts are doing it out. Some of them are looking at each other, trying to figure out what each is doing. There's a lot of text flying around right now. The food truck in your own facility location is starting to become very popular, which is why I think, Mr. Poland, you might want to talk to those students and maybe get a jump on that if that's where we're headed, because, a lot of places are starting to realize that there's an amazing, number of businesses that will help us do some stuff on campus with a lot more ability to manage the things that people would be concerned about. And so that is starting to spread, and people are really considering that. I know a few districts are heading in that direction that I saw yesterday, the other day, and last 2 days on the meetings. So I would say it's split. I mean, people are hopeful to go outside, but there's also, districts that are looking to really develop the on-campus activities, much like having weddings at facilities that, weddings at home type of thing. There's an industry out there that really helps make that great. So they're exploring all of that. And I think we're going to see more and more doing that, because there's a lot of factors that we're 3 months away, with a couple of states in the United States starting to spike again. It's just too much to bank on an uncertainty. If we know we can provide something really amazing and dedicate 3 months to making it amazing, it might be better than putting our hope in something that 2 months, 2.5, 3 months from now ends up getting, canceled or taken out. And then we have to try to scramble to make something, which would be far less than great if we had no time to do it. So I think a lot of places that I see are heading towards the food trucks and the things that they can make, make special with some of the facilities that they can effectively do in a great way and manage for the seniors to give them a great experience. Mr. Poland, I'll just kind of hand off to you for here.
Yeah, I would agree with Dr. Willett. But I would also say this, I have been very much focused on our students in our school community because I trust them. I trust that the students that are in this committee are going to build an incredible set of events. And our class advisors and our class officers are going to work together to make sure it is meaningful. So I wholeheartedly trust them, and I see the work they're doing and the communication they've had with outside vendors. And I have connected with some principals. I'll read an email. I'm not going to read who it is, but we're going to have prom. We're going to use the school to do things outside on the grounds, but haven't put many details together yet, right? So I think a lot of schools are looking to do something similar to what we're doing, but then there's also schools that are going to use outside events. But I think more importantly, it's about what I see in our students and their ability to build these events to make sure they're meaningful. And like I said, with the class night, as long as the guidance continues, if it opens up more for us and we can have the elements of prom for that, then that's what it will be, and so yeah, I have talked to some principals around, and I think it's just like Dr. Willett said, it's kind of a mixed bag in a sense, right? Some are going outside campus, some are not. But again, I wholeheartedly trust our students, our class officers, and the work they're doing, and our class advisors to just build a great end of the year.
All right. Thank you very much for both of those answers. Yeah, I mean, and I've got, I'm a recent graduate, and I'm graduating from UConn this year. So, this is definitely something that I feel a lot of sympathy for students in this graduating class. And looking back on my experience, I know that, being able to do prom outside of, the regular campus grounds, doing class day at Holiday Hill, that kind of helps make it special in a way. So I completely get that desire. And if that's not doable, I guess my humble advice, to everyone planning it would be to see what we can do to incorporate those outside vendors, which sounds like that is what we're doing right now. But that's my 2 cents. I'll yield the floor, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jacob. Let's go to Madhu.
Thank you. First, I want to say, Principal Poland, I hope you get a bit of normalcy here in the next year and a half, because I know this one's been a little bit trying. I also want to say I think food trucks are a great idea. We've and on some other committees that I serve on through various professional boards, we've done those and they've been a huge success. People love it. I did have a couple of questions. So is it safe to say that during the planning process, parents, guardians, students have all had a voice in the planning? And anyone can answer that.
Yeah, I don't want to steal Mr. Poland's thunder. Do you want to?
I feel as though, yes. Given the fact that, like I said, we started in January with the individual meetings with students, and setting up the Zoom meetings with parent guardians, our senior parent guardians starting in February, having that Q&A posted for parent guardians to make sure their thoughts can kind of formally be presented to me, not just in a Zoom meeting. With the student committee, again, the survey, I think some students didn't necessarily think it was an effective survey, and that's okay. I think what I said to senior parents that night was, this survey is going to be about what activities can these students build for these events, and that's what it was. And it's really helped because I took that data in an anonymous way and I shared it with our student committee, and they vetted through it and we vetted through it to make sure that we can come as close to what students are looking to have here. And then, yeah, the student committee, they're meeting pretty much every week, and I advise, oversee with those students. So I believe, it's been good to this point. I believe it's going to get better, with the addition of more of a graduation advisory council with parents. So, because that is one of the ideas that came through in that Q&A document is, how can we help? How can we support? How can we provide our feedback? And I'm going to kind of hash that out a little bit more tomorrow with our senior parent guardians. So that can be done in a more formal way specifically for graduation, because I just saw that was something that was necessary, So yeah, I would say to this point, I feel pretty good. about what has been done.
Okay. During these meetings, has anyone expressed any sort of disapproval with the plans or expressed that they felt like they weren't being listened to?
I don't think not listened to. I think most of the students feel, I think majority of the students felt like they were being listened to. I think there was, in every meeting, the students understood, there was, can we have prom? I wish we could do this. And the majority understood that this is what we needed to plan for, and this is how we were going to execute it. Some students were definitely wish they could have a traditional prom and a traditional class night and class day, and I heard that, and that's why when I turned to the student committee, I said, like, listen, let's try to come as close as we can with what we're doing here on campus. So I would say the majority of our students walked away from our meeting feeling heard, understanding the plan and the rationale behind it. But I think with anything, not everyone's going to say.
Right. Not everyone's going to be happy. You can't please anyone.
I would say the majority, though, felt good,
Yeah. Wanting a sense of normalcy, I get, that's fair. But yeah, no, you can't please everyone all the time. And it sounds like you're willing to have, even more people join, and help join the planning, I guess. And is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's great to have as many heads at the table as possible, whether it's formally in the meeting or through surveys, and obviously the council that I'll speak to tomorrow more about with our parents and for graduation will be helpful, and I think that's going to be an important part to the end of the year, just so we can continue to update and get feedback from our senior parent guardians about graduation.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'll echo Jacob and say, I do have some sympathy. I do wish, we could have, like we all do. But it sounds like, we're headed in the right direction. I think it'd be a good idea if we all pulled in the same direction. So I appreciate your staff and your time and your efforts. I appreciate everyone who's put time into this planning. So thank you.
And I think Mr. Poland would say and is saying, you're encouraging students to engage. It is important to have the voices. The pandemic is a little ridiculous right now, and a lot of stuff that we deal with is ridiculous. But having all the minds and having the engagement is something that's welcomed. I also just want to give a note of context because everybody wants what is best, what we feel like people would be most excited by. And the decision making that, that I try to make, I try to give people, as much as I can, the information that we have available and straight answers. So for instance, if my feeling is that things should be on campus, why do I feel that way? An example would be when I have a conversation with a health district and I say, if we have it at an off-campus venue, and you have to do contact tracing, what happens in that situation? And, he knows the district knows how we do the tracing, how we execute our responsibilities. And basically said, if we can't determine things like within the 6 feet at, more than 15 minutes, et cetera, then everybody in there is going to be quarantined. So I think that's the problem is that, when I hear something like that, it makes me think of all these calls that we have to make that take people out of their lives. And I think of a senior and me somehow calling the senior family and saying, I'm sorry, your child cannot participate in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks of these activities because because they are now considered quarantined. And so that's the kind of thing that's not something people sometimes want to hear, but I think it's the thing that could really mess up their plans, their lives, the fun they're having. And I don't want people to get, in a worse situation than they've already felt. So anyway,
I was gonna say, having had a family that we literally just went through quarantine or finally out of it, it's no fun. It's no fun for the kid involved. I can assure you of that. So I appreciate that. And I did have one more question, Principal Paul. If anyone wants to join the committee, do they reach out to you or how do they do this?
Yeah, so when I originally put it out in that survey, it was just email me if you are interested in being a part of the committee. And I can send that back out again, right? And
Okay.
that's what I'll, just to see if any more students would like to be involved in the planning process.
And thank you again so much. I really do appreciate you and your staff's time.
Thank you very much, Madhu. Let's go to, Christine Griffin. So she has the task force experience.
Yes. Well, thank you, Mr. Poland. It sounds like you guys have certainly started planning early and, are putting together a pretty comprehensive plan. Yes, and as the former graduation task force chairperson last year, I completely recognize that this is no easy task. I mean, I don't think I've ever scoured more news stories, governor, executive orders, trying to figure out the best way to make our students happy and to give them the end of the year activity that they deserve. So that being said, I also recognize that our current seniors, they're going on over 375 days of not having a traditional end of high school experience. And I recognize that for a lot of those seniors, this is a very emotional time and they really want all of the traditional aspects that they've already lost and the ones that should be upcoming. So I guess my question is, I'm surprised, I should say, that prom wasn't put more of the top of the list. These are kids who lost their junior prom, now have lost their senior prom. And while I understand your hybrid approach, typically these kids would have a class day, class night, a prom, a graduation, a project graduation that, obviously that's not related to us. So I'm not even sure what's going on there. But I guess my question is, did the kids ask for a traditional prom? Were they okay with this hybrid? And why would we not have all four events, I guess is my question? Graduation, prom, class night, class day. Why would we not make sure, even if they're on campus, I understand, Dr. Willett, what you're saying about on campus, but why are we not making sure that with everything they've lost before this time, this senior year and the end of their junior year, why not give them those four events however we possibly can? So I guess that would be my question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think we are still in the planning stages of this, and I think that's why I was so early and proactive with the communication with parent guardians, because I wanted to make sure that we got our foundation of a plan out there, and then knowing that, and really praying that we're going to open up more as we get toward the end of the year, right? And I think we all feel that could happen. So I would say this, we decided to, merge those plans in the early stages of this planning because, we didn't know what prom could actually look like, at the end. We didn't know if we could actually hold a prom where there's going to be dancing and a sit-down meal, right? So to try to supplement and make sure that the night is actually classy and engaging, we know that there's elements of class night that we can execute no matter what, right? We can execute the senior video viewing. We can execute, the yearbook distribution, right? We can do that in a safe way. I don't know if there's ever going to be specific guidance on dancing, but I know the specific guidance on social distancing, right? And, we're still planning, it definitely was something that students expressed very much a need for, right? And I think because we're still early in the process, it can be more of a prom feel that night. I just don't know, again, if it can be a true prom because I'm worried about the restrictions that are in place right now. And if they're similar to the end of the year, is dancing going to be something that we can do? Is a sit down meal something we can do? And without those, it does become more of a class night. So that's why when we supplemented and kind of created that hybrid, is to make sure that that night was meaningful, knowing that we can execute class night events really no matter what. But as I said, we'll continue to gather the input of our students. I think with the student committee right now, you know, there's a theme that'll go on. There's decorations related to that theme. You know, as we get closer to the end of the year, you know, and we're able to purchase tents or rent tents and have more of the outdoor feel, I think it can probably become more of a prom, you know, but I just want to make sure that that night, no matter what, has engaging, actionable events. So that's why we decided to supplement and hybrid it with class night. But we're still in the, again, that's why I started in February, you know, and that's why this student committee will continue to meet. We'll continue to discuss and have every really idea on the table.
I guess just from my perspective is that I would like, if possible, to let the students know that a real prom is not off the table, that we will do everything that we can do to make that happen if the guidelines will allow us to. I think it's tough for the seniors, especially the girls. I mean, this is the time, actually, they probably would have already bought all their dresses already, you know, and I think it's just another disappointment. And I still, in my opinion, I would like to see the two events separated to the best of our ability and see what we can do for these kids to have a true prom. And that being said, I completely understand, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, I remember listening to everything, trying to wonder what the governor was going to allow. And there's no guarantees. I mean, and even our outdoor graduation, we thought that number was even going to go up the week before, and it didn't, you know. So it's hard to plan, and I understand that, and I certainly respect the predicament that you are in with your planning team. But I'd like to not, if we could not completely take it off the table of having a traditional prom, if we can make it happen. Because as we also know from last year's graduation, in-person graduation, you know, a lot changes in a month, you know, during this pandemic. And so we have no idea where we're going to be a month from now. So I appreciate it, all the work that you and your staff are putting into this. And, you know, just like everybody else, you know, I'll be certainly waiting to see where we kind of land based on the pandemic and the restrictions. So thank you.
You know, one of the last things we want is for any chance that there will be nothing. So that I think that they, and I'll of course let Mr. Poland kind of weigh in and talk on that, but I think they're in that planning stage, you know, and they want to create a situation where if the state does suddenly say something, they can pivot from that activity straight into another one that still has value for the our young adult partners, and not leave them with nothing because we could not get into a place, so to speak. So I think they are, right, Mr. Poland? You're still talking about that. You're still evolving that with students and the team.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, from the get-go, I've always trying to incorporate the elements of prom, like I said, and then as things begin to open up, it becomes more and more like a prom feel, you know. And I think we just continue to gather the input. I think the ideas already are great, and they're going to be meaningful. And I trust our students, our class officers, and our class advisors to continue to do the research and find out what we can truly execute, and I'll oversee it to be meaningful at the end of the year.
We're also going to try, just as a connected issue, when April 5th comes and the opportunity to get immunized for younger adults, you know, for our young adult partners to get immunized happens, I plan on our school district helping them in any possible way that we can. You know, even looking at that, the students that are 16, 17 years old and so in that range, they're only eligible for Pfizer. So if they got it on April 5th by some magic, they were able to get it right then. In 4 to 6 weeks until the second shot, that's somewhere in mid-May. 4 to 6 weeks after that, somewhere in mid-June. And it takes 14 days after your last dose before you're actually considered immunized. So like, we can't count on that as a strategy, but we are going to be trying to provide opportunities, provide you know, as much support for the families who want to have their kids vaccinated, 16, 17, and 18 and above, I'll be putting in a newsletter in the next couple of weeks, some options to try to help those parents get that executed as fast as possible for their kids. So, I mean, we'll try in every way to protect these kids' experiences, these young adults' experiences, so they're not knocked out of them. But again, we do have to, one thing, we have to remember this thing is not over. So we've got to make sure that, by keeping that in mind, we'll make sure we can still provide awesome events and people can still participate. As long as we keep in mind that this is not over, we're going to be able to provide great stuff. So I think that's really, one of the things we just want to make sure we're being mindful of.
And I just wanted to say too, those groups were groups of 50 students, correct, with the 4 groups, 50 each. So they should have their friends group as it stands right now together for that night. So let's go to Rini next.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Dr. Willett and Mr. Poland, so much for kind of giving us some background. I'm still a little bit wrestling with like what is exactly the issue. So it seems like we have a petition that was signed by some students around graduation and prom, but then we also got a letter from some students on the other side that they were happy with what was going on. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, the advisors and some of the students that were on the committee there sent a letter saying that
they were in support, but then there's also some, we had someone come on here and said that they had an organized group of 147 students who are going to have a prom regardless of what the school does. Was that what I heard? And that can just be really kind of a yes or no. I thought that's what she said.
I mean, I would have to leave that up to the student to answer,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So with that said, I am not at all questioning, understand the rationale. I understand it completely. We're really trying to keep safety and students' health and even really everyone's health at the top of the heap here. I wasn't 100% sure, again, around some of the restrictions. It seems like we're having sports, but then maybe we're saying you can't dance. So I'm not sure about that, but I do kind of agree with Ms. Griffin that if there was a way to potentially, as we go forward, the minimum maybe separate the events so that there is an actual prom, if it's possible. I personally have always been, in a district or whatever prior to this that had always an outdoor graduation. That was the number one go-to. It seems to me that in this environment, the outside thing would be the better way to go if we can. And then, the indoor is the backup, like if it's going to rain or whatever. So I'm kind of more in that camp, just given the current circumstances. I do feel badly for this group of students about last year. They lost out on everything. And, again, they're not losing out on everything this year. And I think this is amazing what has been planned so far. But I do feel like we really would need to pull in some of these other students who, and maybe they missed the opportunity. Maybe they didn't understand. If you don't sign up now, we're going to kind of be moving forward. I'm not really sure, but maybe we just need a few more voices at the table, and maybe hopefully we can bring some of those other folks in to kind of help and have a more representation. I think, Mr. Poland, you maybe said there was 8 or maybe 10 students. I'm not sure. Was that right?
Yeah, so when I opened it, I opened up to all students, and I really just, the students who emailed me and expressed interest, that's who I added to the committee.
Right, and that's all you can do is open it up.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to,
right,
again,
absolutely, not at all. But now that I'm maybe more aware, what with students coming here and speaking, and then letters being sent in and stuff, I'm a little bit more aware of it's a bigger issue than I think maybe I knew about before, and that maybe what we need is a bigger a bigger contingent of students involved in some of the planning if they're willing to do it. I mean, they can't, you can only do what you can do. So, but to the degree that we might be able to, at a minimum, sort of separate and have that one, prom is a specific and separate event, I think that would go a long way. And like I said, I'm really absolutely in the camp of the outdoor graduation if it can be done, just because I feel like it's safer anyway. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rini. Let's go to Plord.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Mr. Poland, for the presentation. It was very helpful, and I see you guys are working very hard. And it is early in the process, and I think that's, why we're sitting here now is because as people go through the process and they see what they like and they don't like about it, that's where the board will actually get emails, and you'll probably get emails from students as well. So I really would like to thank you and your staff and the student committee, for getting the ball rolling, because last year we didn't have the time to to plan. It was just everything shut down and you had to figure it out as you went. So thank you for being proactive on that. I think a suggestion I have for the students, if they're still on, definitely be part of the process. Part of the reason I'm sitting here in this Board of Ed room is because I wanted to be part of the process. I didn't feel that my voice was heard. So, I ran for office. So I would urge you to be on the committee, even if you don't feel welcome for any reason. And I'm not saying that's the case, but if you feel that way, please join the committee. And I think the question that you need to answer to the committee, not necessarily me, because I don't really think I have much of a say here, just, opinions, but do you want the graduation outside because you want it outside, or do you want it outside, or do you want to have more people at the graduation? Because it sounds to me you could have more of your family members in the indoor venue and not in the outdoor venue. But I'm going to leave that up to the committee and you guys to answer when you talk to Mr. Poland. My opinion has always been with outdoors and the pandemic that it's the safest place to be. So I think that's why I initially jumped on the petition, is because, when we get people outside, the ventilation is the best there. You can see all your friends, you can see people you haven't seen in a year. And really, I know the pandemic's been a struggle. So I really feel for you guys, just putting myself in your shoes. I would have been the one saying, what do you mean we're not having prom? What do you mean? I get it. I guess and forgive me for not knowing this, how many seniors do we have, Mr. Poland or Dr. Willett?
214.
214. And so 140 are looking at a unaffiliated prom. And I can't say I wouldn't be leading that charge back in high school either. So just to kind of reiterate what Rainey and Griffin said, if there's a way to make prom happen, I would love that for our seniors, in an affiliated way. I see the transition from class night to prom, if it can happen. And I love that. So whatever we can do, I don't know, sorry, I'm rambling, but I had a lot to say. The state guidelines are really what, holds things back. And I get it to the students. Back in August, I wanted kids in school 5 days a week. And you would have thought I was crazy, getting run out of town because the powers that be at the state level. So there is, some higher, guidelines than the Board of Ed and our staff that we definitely have to follow and keep things kosher. But good point on the dancing, Rini. In terms of the vaccines, I know that's a close call, if you will. You know, I got the Pfizer vaccine, you know, and 3 weeks later, I think they moved it up 3 weeks later. I don't know if we could have a school affiliated Pfizer vaccine drive.
Yeah, I asked. I did not receive a positive answer to that one.
Just throwing it out there, you know, to the
Yeah.
universe. Another thought, and this is probably expensive, but you know, is there a way to rapid test kids at the door as a means of coming in? But you know, that's all I had. No real questions, just a lot of thoughts. But you know, I do thank the staff and I do thank the students. And I just hope you guys can all come together for what's best for the students. Thanks, Ash. I'm good.
Thank you very much, Blord. Let's go to Dana.
Thank you, Ashley. First of all, thank you, Mr. Poland, for all that you've done in your first year and a half as principal. Not only are you getting adjusted to your new role, but you're getting adjusted to your new role in a pandemic. And as Christina said, in last year, nobody could make any decisions. We just kind of figured it out as we went along. So you leading the charge for the Tolland Public High School in your first year and a half is admirable, everything that you've done. I'm grateful that our young adults are exercising their rights to be heard and exercising their civic duties to stand up for what they believe in. It's absolutely admirable on all ends of the spectrum. I am happy to hear one of my questions was, is there still opportunity to join these committees? And I'm happy to hear there's been multiple communications, whether it be in your email communications, whether it be on the website or what have you, but there's still opportunity for students, parents, and guardians to become a part of the process, to join the committee. It is still early on, so there is opportunities to continue the voices being heard. If we've learned anything from the past, is that diverse opinions help formulate the right opinion for each respective group, whether it's a business or a class or what have you. I feel badly for the class of 2021. I feel badly for the class of 2020. I feel badly for all of our students, all of our families, all of our residents, even nationwide. Everybody has lost so much throughout this pandemic. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And if we've learned anything from this entire pandemic, it's how grateful we are for what we have and what we make of it. And it sounds like the existing committees are working their hardest to focus on as much normalcy as they possibly can for all of our students, specifically the class of 2021 and their graduation and all their senior activities. If it puts anything in perspective, I was in a school of 500 in my class, and we had it in our stinky high school gym. But something happened with where we had rented out the space. It was a bummer. It was really tough, and I'm not trying to equate that to a pandemic, but I am trying to equate it to the fact that we made it an amazing event. We had to have it in our gym. And we made it an amazing event because it's you being with your friends, it's you being with your classmates, it's you celebrating in whatever capacity that might be. I would get concerned about the dancing because I know in the 80s, I'm aging myself, in the 90s when we grew up, dancing was like this and you kind of stepped and you're really far away. I know that that's a lot closer now, and dancing probably does not conform with the 6 feet social distancing. And I know with sports, they do have certain guidelines and rules with contact and such. So I would be interested to hear that. And I'm glad to hear that Mr. Poland is on that and trying to do his best to get to the bottom of that to see if that is a possibility. I would be remiss of creating any other committees or task forces or what have you. As a Board of Ed member, I don't feel that it's my place to get involved in student petitions or parent petitions. I think it's the parents and students to speak for themselves. But I also think having an additional task force or committee would kind of exhaust our resources. We already have a great process in place that has the doors wide open for additional folks and different voices to be heard. What, as Christina said, welcomed or if they feel unwelcomed or don't feel welcomed, this is, you know, your opportunity. Mr. Poland is saying, send him emails and communicate to him because you're welcome. So please take that opportunity and take that door that he has opened for you to join. You know, we want to be able to have your senior activities be as successful as it can possibly be. I think a lot of the stuff that, a lot of my questions that I had were already answered. So thank you to my peers who exhausted a lot of my questions. But I will say that I've heard a lot tonight about this petition. I haven't seen it yet, but what I have seen is some correspondence that came to the Board of Ed, and I'd like to have an opportunity to read it. It's from the Tolland High School senior class officers. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, we're writing to you in regarding the end of year senior class activities. As senior class officers, we are directly involved with the planning of these events and feel we have strong student perspectives that we would like to share. Over the past year, students have been stripped of many activities and opportunities, including but not limited to a traditional school year, prom, and sports. As much as any student would, the officers want as many traditional senior events as possible. However, it is vital we come together as a class and enjoy experiences as originally planned by our principal, Mr. Thomas Poland. So far, we've worked tirelessly with Mr. Poland as well as our class advisors to plan a class night, as well as a class day. Both of these events will take place at the high school and will closely resemble the normal events that take place in a given school year. We also plan on holding an indoor graduation ceremony, as precedent in our indoor graduation ceremony has always taken place. Not only does this ensure the safety of all attendees, but it also upholds the humble traditions of our school, which we take great pride in. These plans have been made according to the current parameters and guidelines set in place. As these guidelines continue to ease, we are open to change and are willing to modify these plans as pursuant to the guidelines set in place by the state of Connecticut and the Eastern Highland Health District. As the leaders of our senior class, we fully support Mr. Poland's efforts and plans through and through. So far, Mr. Poland has spent nearly 36 hours meeting with students individually. The topics of these meetings want to discuss as activities at large. Mr. Poland heavily relied on student input while making decisions on these events. During these meetings, no objections were raised to the events taking place at the end of the semester. Furthermore, Mr. Poland held a Zoom meeting with approximately 100 parents, all of whom raised no objections to any events described. We're extremely confident that Mr. Poland and our class advisors will continue to work hand in hand to create the best, safest, and most memorable end of year experiences for our senior class. Best regards, James Grady IV, Andrew Ouellette, Emma Deneen, and Matthew Peter. I will say for the folks that wrote this letter, for the senior class that they are partners with, for the folks that have that petition, keep fighting for what you believe in. But this letter is indicative of the fact that the door is wide open. So please get involved. It's so, so important. So please take that opportunity. Again, our young adults, we're obviously teaching our young adults in our Tolland Public School well to speak eloquently and to speak on behalf of their rights. So again, I'm thankful for their voices, and I'm thankful for Mr. Poland and his entire team, and I have trust in the fact that they will create an inclusive and safe event for our seniors, or safe events, I should say, for our seniors. And that's all I have for now. So thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Dr. Watt.
Thank you, Dana. I just wanted to remind you too, I mean, I know that that was from students and students may not have gotten up to speak, but I do know that from previous past that we're trying not to read correspondence into our meetings, just because I'm trying to keep everything fair and say how we do process this. So
duly noted, Ashley. I will say that I did have correspondence with the students over the last several days, and this was something that was requested. So, but I duly note what you're saying, so I appreciate it and I respect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to Sophia.
Mr. Poland, I have to tell you, I am super impressed with all the work you've done. You can tell by your presentation that you're very passionate about putting on the best events possible for our seniors. It's very obvious you care about them and you are really giving it 100%, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that you included students and you gave parents an opportunity to be listened to, and you're going to continue to do that. It's amazing. I encourage the students that spoke out or that have any questions about this process to reach out to Mr. Poland, because obviously he's open and willing to have, anyone included in this process. I personally trust this process, and I know that you will do what's best for our students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sophia. Let's go to Simmer. Oh, Simmer, you're muted, honey.
Sorry.
There you go.
I just wanted to say, like, as a student, like, who goes to Tolland High School, one of the things I'm finding confusing is differentiating between, like, the end of the year school activities and, like, the prom that the seniors are doing unaffiliated with the school. And I feel like a presentation like this, if it was, like, during advisory, for example, given to the students, it would make things more clear, because personally, I'm confused about, like, how many dresses I should get and stuff like that. And also with graduation, I trust Mr. Poland and I trust like what science says. So I would love a graduation that's outside, but we kind of have to do what's safe for the students. And that's all I just wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you for adding your perspective in. Yeah, no, I mean, I think everyone involved, I think this is a great starting process. I mean, obviously we know that things change on a dime. And so I think that what we have in place, I think, is a great process. And I wish those students reach out and become a part of that. And Mr. Poland, if you don't mind, I am going to directly tell you to make sure you send out an email to all students again, to get anyone that are even thinking about considering to join you. Just because it is important to get all different sides. And I know that sometimes students need a little push to come on board. They may not have realized what exactly that you were doing. And I think that this is important. And I agree that this is fantastic that you have taken the time to sit with every senior, because not every principal of any school will do that. I do know that with students, they do appreciate that. And I think that you are making them heard. And it is very difficult to make those decisions based on the pandemic. And like I said, with the rules and state mandates, we don't know what happens. So I do thank you very much for the opportunity to come tonight and to walk us through of what is actually happening.
Well, yeah, and I do want to compliment Mr. Poland. There's so many ways he has done outreach, and he'll continue to do those ways as he has. And just keep in mind too, just for everyone, this pandemic has been a very difficult year. This gentleman, they were struggling without the administrative support. We had an athletic director serving as an assistant principal, and as awesome as our athletic director is, there's just some things that a principal, he's got some things that he knows how to do, and he had to pick up weight that he didn't have to pick up during a pandemic that, and during that whole time, he was doing constant outreach to the kids, meeting and offering to meet with every single senior, every single one of the 214. So, great job, Mr. Poland, and to the staff of, that are working on this. I know it's not easy. I know it's a really difficult time. Appreciate everything the staff is doing. Just keep doing what you're doing, Mr. Poland. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I definitely will say, perhaps you can come back and update the board on how everything transpires and where we're at. So that would be great. Thank you again for coming out tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that said, we will move on to H2, the budget. So Dr. Willett, if you would walk us through that.
Sure. Let me just pivot here to a different screen and hopefully not blow everything up in the process. So we are, as you know, we did get last night or the night before, I can't remember, all the nights are sort of mushing into one big long time span, but the town council did set its budget. And so the Board of Education budget was reduced from 3.19, which was the Board of Ed adopted. Well, actually, let me walk back the whole thing. The superintendent's proposed budget was 3.59. The Board of Ed adopted budget was 3.19. And the budget approved last night by town council was 2.0. 2%. So we will be looking at in the next few weeks, and Ms. Griffin, is on the ball. She's setting up the FFC meeting. We're working on the I'm working on these phase documents like we had last year, so I can put a lot of choices in front of the board, and the board can help make some determinations about how and what we we prioritize for the end of the year. So we're heading straight into that process, which we expected, to be in, of course, in one way or another. And so essentially we're at a budget of the 2% budget represents about a $801,999 increase. And so that's we're gonna just have to make some cuts. The reduction between the Board of Ed adopted budget and the 2% is about 474,000 roughly. So I've already been looking at that, in some anticipation that there might be an adjustment. In areas, I'm looking in each subject area, working with the staff and the administration to see, what may be forward investments we can make in fiscal year 22, which I will be talking about with FFC and ultimately put into the phase documents for the Board of Education's review. And looking at insurance, looking at retirements, looking at all of the different things that might help us offset this, making some assumptions, making some projections. We do have to be a little careful again about too much of the investment in fiscal year 22, because anything that we take out of fiscal year 22, we have to climb back up from in fiscal year 23. So we just are going to have to do that carefully so that we're not putting ourselves in a hole we can't climb out of. But I'm confident that with the work and the hard work of the committee, Ms. Griffin and others, we'll be able to find the right path, and I'm very confident the board will find a path that we can get through it. But that's essentially the long and short of it. We haven't had a whole lot of time to discuss it beyond that, and I just want to put the information in front of the FFC and then bring it to the board. So I don't have some of the stuff that I would share tonight. I'm going to share with FFC first as we head into making these decisions and working towards getting to that 2.0%. So I can answer some questions if you want, but that's essentially the update as to where we are right now.
No, that's perfect. I think I'll go through all the board members and go through their questions. So first up is Madhu.
Thank you. So I guess reading between the lines yesterday at the town council meeting, it seems like some of the hope is that we're going to be able to backfill some of the further reduction from the town council with the ARP funds. Do we know anything more about guidance? Are we actually going to be able to move some of these items to be covered by the ARP?
So that's a great question. And here's my caution with the ARP. And I try to put it in an analogy. If I gave you $100, you'd be happy. And then if I told you you had to drive 1,000 miles on the $100, you'd realize that that $100 was gone the minute I gave it to you. So here's what we have to keep in mind. That rescue plan money is obviously better than not having it, but it's meant to address things we're going to be expected to do that we have never in our history been expected to do. So we're going to have to extend extended year, extended day programs. We're going to have to do all kinds of things. That money is going to be projected out over the next 3 or 4 years. There's a reason why, because they don't do this with everything. There's a reason why they're giving us 3 to 4 years to expend that. And that's because they expect the pandemic effects to have, these 3 or 4 year impacts. And my guess is none of that comes without strings. So we are definitely going to have things that we're expected to do as a district, which will require additional hours, additional personnel, additional heating, additional materials, additional of everything to execute. So thank God we got it. We're in the process of getting it, although again, we have to wait to see how that all pans down, because in some cases, we were told we're going to get this and we get that, when it all ends. But it is something that's going to help us make it through the next 3-4 years. So I would caution against looking at anything like that as an offset for a single year. I think that things we're looking at are educational reserve fund. We have some money in there that can be used for capital, special education, and technology. There are certain things that we can look at to manage the situation that we're in. COVID fund, there is funds in there that The Board of Ed had the wisdom at the end of last year to do 30-40-30 split. As you remember, 30% went to the town general fund, 40% went to the COVID relief, I believe, and then the 30 went to the ERF, if I recall correctly. And so that was putting, nesting the funds where we would need to draw them from. And we're going to need to. We're going to need to be drawing on all of our resources over the next couple of years to make sure that that we can provide the education that the students and the community needs.
So it's not like we're going to be able to, have carte blanche with these funds. It's not like it's like, oh, we can reduce our budget by this much and just we'll use the ARP to cover it. Correct? There's specific earmarked purposes for it.
I would not look at it that way, right? Like, and I'm not criticizing anyone who says anything like that. I'm just saying I would not look at it like, hey, great, let's spend it this year. It's kind of like, again, that trip analogy. We've got a journey of more than 1,000 miles here, so we can't take that $100 and go use it on some burgers and movies. Or anything that we wouldn't plan on. We got to use it on the fuel to get to that 1,000-mile mark. That 1,000-mile mark is the next 3 years. That money is not, really supposed to be offsetting the needs of the district. We're going to need the speech language, we're going to need these things regardless. That money is when we got to do an ESY and we have to do transportation for it, or certain services that we'll now be expected to do for larger populations, maybe as big as 600 this summer. We are definitely going to be using those funds over the long game. We cannot, take that and say, hey, let's offset things this year with it. That would be, in my opinion, a mistake, because that's not really how that's given out to us. And you can tell that, we will be expected to do quite a bit in the next 3 to 4 years, which is why that money is actually got a 3 or 4 year span on it. So,
Gotcha. Nope, makes sense. Thank you for the answer.
Sure.
Okay, let's go to Jacob.
So just kind of tailing off of that question, I know that it's not necessarily going to benefit our budget next year, but do we have any more information about how much ESSER 3, as we're calling it, might be? I know we talked about it a little bit at FFC, but it was fuzzy. Do we have any more clarification on that amount?
The last I saw, it was 461, with some provisions about, 20% obviously being used directly for students to offset impacts. And then, you can use it on things like HVAC ventilation systems, PPE, that type of thing. So there are some provisions about what you can and can't use it from. They're fairly robust, but again, with Governor Lamont talking about remote learning extending into next year, that doesn't get extended into next year without us picking up a cost that we never had before. And whether that cost is going to be, outsourcing to CREC for people that want to do, online services, or whether those are happening in-house, through staff allocated to the purpose or something like that. These are things that people expect to happen. And so, Governor Lamont can't talk about remote learning next year if there's really nothing behind it. So that's what's coming along here from the federal government and others is, the resources to try to execute those things. So that's more or less how that plays out. It's about 461, but again, it needs to go out over 3 or 4 years. And so that's more or less where it is. And 461 is what I see on paper. At one point for one of the other grants, I saw 188 on paper and we got 89. So we just have to, we have to keep an eye on like what's on paper. I'm very hopeful. And maybe that will be the amount that's deposited for the town of Tolland, through and for our education system. But we gotta, we'll celebrate it once we actually see it come in. And then again, we're not going to just sort of look at it like, let's just offset everything now, because we know these expectations of us are happening for 3 to 4 years out. And so we just have to keep that in mind.
Okay, that's still pretty fuzzy as far as what that actual amount is. It's not set in stone. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say on paper that's 461. So one could argue that it's there and it's listed. You know, but again, one could argue that some other things have been on paper too.
Yeah.
I think we can feel confident that we're going to get something substantial and maybe even to that amount. But it, you know, again, it's for 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
And it's over three. Let me be clear. It's not 400 some odd thousand every year for 3 or 4 years. It is that amount expected to be spent, you know, in a span of 3 or 4 years over things like our, you know, extended school year services, you know, transportation for such things, personnel for such things, that type of thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, let's go to Plord.
Thank you, Ashley. My first question is very simple. Was FFC scheduled, the special meeting?
I believe
Not yet?
they worked it out or are in the process of working it out, right?
Okay.
Ms. Griffin?
I want to say it's the Monday, the 5th, right, Christine? We ironed that out?
I've heard back from Jen definitively.
Okay.
So, but
All right, I'll keep an eye out for it. I'd like to just be
It'll
on for
be that week.
my own knowledge and education. And then I'd just like to, let me find her on my screen. I just wanted to address something Dana had said at the beginning of the meeting about comments at town council meetings. I just wanted to say, guys, and fully transparent here, you know, I fully support our budget and all the work. And I respect, you know, what we did here, you know, coming together for our kids and our town. And I know some of the comments, I know, Dana, you were disappointed in what I said, but if we can have an open and honest conversation. And I don't think it's ever been a secret that I've always wanted to maximize our efficiencies and reduce the tax burden to the town. And so when it comes to, you know, working with the council or whatever, you know, I wanted to show my support for our board, but also, you know, what Mike was presenting, because I was confident in what him and Dr. Willett had worked out. In terms of the further reduction, I still have to, you know, formulate an opinion on that. It was disappointing, but I'd like to see, you know, the work done in FFC, because I also, you know, I do think that it sounds like Dr. Willett has some ideas that is not going to impact, you know, the services that we all agreed upon for this year. At least that's my hope. And Dr. Willett, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just wanted to have that open and honest conversation with you, Dana, because, you know, I did feel the disappointment, but I do believe that we all are a team and I do support our budget.
Okay, thank you very much for Christina. Are there any other board members at this time that would like to speak or ask questions? If not, then we will be moving on to the committee and liaison reports.
Can I throw just one more thing out? Sorry, I was gonna, it is always my goal to try to find a way to do it to the least impact possible. So always will do that. And I just do want to thank, I do want to take a moment to thank the town staff. I know how hard they work. I know how hard, you know, each of them has worked on the budget situation, and just to thank them for their efforts, as well as all the town staff, human services and all that. It's a tough thing to go through a budget season, and they've done a great job. And I just wanted to say thank you to the town staff.
Okay, let's just go to Dana.
Okay, so thank you, Ashley. Sorry, I didn't know if you saw my hand, so that I was vigorously waving. And I was kicked off for a bit. My computer died, so I apologize, Dr. Willett. I did miss a few things, and I'll save my questions for our FFC meeting. I know we're all feverishly writing those down to try to figure it out. And Christina, I do thank you for your comments this evening. I appreciate all of our team's comments throughout this entire process. I mean, it was 10 plus weeks of really hard work and digging in and asking tough questions. And as Tony says, make the sausage, or whatever his word salad stuff that he uses. You know, we really did put a lot of work in. And yes, I was disappointed. I was hopeful that we would all stand united. I sent an email out to the entire team, hoping that we would all speak on behalf of that 3.19. I think that we started at 359, if I'm not mistaken. We got it down to a 319. We thought that that was, you know, we truly believed and unanimously approved it and believed it, as we took our oath as Board of Education members to support and guide our students and our staff and our Tolland public school system. Although we do need to be cognizant of all members of the community, of all incomes and all capacities. I think what we really need to be focusing as the Board of Education is being guardians of education and really putting forth a budget that fulfills the needs of our students. And that's what we need to be focusing on as the Board of Education. Our town council, unfortunately, has the tough role of ensuring the mill rate accuracy, tax rate accuracy, and not pricing people out, as we talk about. And again, I don't want to make our Board of Ed meeting to turn into a planning and zoning commission town council meeting. But I was disappointed because we did work at it as a team and we all raised our hand and we all said yes, we all said that. And I was truly hopeful that we'd all speak speak on what we talked about. And when I raise my hand yes, or when I raise my hand no, I'm going to speak why I raise my hand yes and why I raise my hand no. So I was conflicted why you didn't support your raising your hand yes. I know you've been very transparent, and it's always been 5 days in and I've always been remote. We've talked about that very candidly, and I appreciate each other's opinion. I think we've come to a nice meeting ground in the middle and understand and respect each other's opinion. And I just wanted to make sure that you heard me on that, and I think you did, and I hear you on that. And you know, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I was hoping that we would all have been united. That's all. So I thank you. I look forward to a very lengthy and deep FFC meeting in April, whenever that is, because I definitely think that I am concerned with the proposed budget that we have to come forth with. And I am confident in Dr. Willett. I am confident in all of our administrators and our principals and staff that we can do what's right. I am disheartened that we are in this position. I definitely think we need to continue to support our schools and our staff and our students to become the future of Tolland and the future leaders of the United States in whatever capacity that may be. So that's all that I have. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you, Christina, for the candid conversation. I appreciate it.
Okay. At this point, we will move on to the committee and liaison report. Obviously, Birch Grove will be talking later this evening about the change order. FFC, I don't believe has met. Have you guys met in between the last meeting and this meeting? I don't think so, right?
Yeah. We met last week.
You did? Oh, okay. Well, then.
Was that just last week?
Honestly, with the newborn, everything is just like my time frame is just out the window. So yes, go ahead.
We met on the 17th, which was just last week. We went through the more detailed schedule that the board gets the first meeting of the month, which we call Appendix F1. And Dr. Willett just kind of walked us through, because I know that there's been a lot of chatter about this $1 million that we're going to have left over. And I really don't think that's going to be the case. So we kind of walk through the individual numbers and what, you know, we're projecting is going to go down and what still needs to be expensed. And Dr. Willett's going to get back to us on some of those numbers that he wasn't sure of. We did talk about possibly using some funds for this year that we may have to adjust some curriculum writing, food services, which will probably not self-fund for this year due to the pandemic and kind of not having lunch, especially at the middle school and the high school. And then possibly some moving expenses if there's the possibility that we might be able to get into Birch Grove sooner than we anticipated. We can, I think the plan was to maybe hire some people to move stuff into the new Birch Grove. We talked about the, I thought it was the American Recovery Act, but is it the American Recovery Plan?
The rescue plan.
Oh, okay, so I'll have to update
American
my minutes
Rescue.
for those get final. American Rescue Plan, my bad. So we talked to, I know we talked about that today as well. So we had kind of gone through that. And then we did talk about, at the time, we only knew about the town manager's proposed budget. So we briefly talked about that and the potential cut for 293, which is now 474. So Dr. Willett is going to prepare those end of the year docs, kind of what we had seen last year with the 30-40-30 split, which that is still going to be discussed, what percentage, if anything, should be into those buckets. And then lastly, we talked about some paving projects that Dr. Willett wants to do this year that we could take out of the capital budget, which would kind of help the town's capital budget. It'll save us some money because we can kind of lump it with other projects that we have and kind of save some money there. So the committee had agreed with him to present that to Mr. Rosen and see about getting that project done for this year and taken out of the capital budget. So it was a very long, lengthy meeting, and but we got a lot talked about, and we'll be having another one hopefully in the next week or two.
And I did attend that one.
You did attend that one. That's right. I'm sorry. I got to put your name in here too.
I'm telling you, everything just kind of combines together. I did see the curriculum agenda came out an email right before. I did see that come out, correct? The agenda just came out. Communications, what's the status on that? Did you guys pick a new date yet? New time? Any of that good stuff?
Not yet. As of right now, it's still scheduled for April. But we're waiting to, I got to get an email out, but Tony, we might need to wait for Tony.
The board misses Tony. Okay, and then so obviously Birch Grove, communications and negotiations for the secretaries, Rini?
We are in the progress. We've started our meetings with them and we will continue on with that into, I think our next meeting is next week.
Okay, and so I think I covered everybody. Thank you guys. Next up is the chairperson's report, which just was going to have this. Okay. There's plenty to discuss, and I'm going to take this opportunity to address a couple of the hot topics. First off, we are neighbors all in one town. It shouldn't be the town council versus the Board of Ed versus the fire department. There are needs in many different sectors within our town. We will continue to advocate for all of our students. I have faith and trust in our FFC, working with Dr. Willett and the whole board to look into using the SR funds, the ERF, etc. If we do have end of the year funds available, we will invest into items for the next year. We will work around what we were given to our best of our abilities. This is a larger request given the circumstances that we are put in. The schools do need funds to operate, and the state's unfunded mandates go up, and Tolland has a bullseye on our back for ECS funds. I have confidence in Dr. Willett to properly use the funds. He will protect the essential programs for all students. We will still continue to strive for excellence. Let's work together and not blame each other for the rising costs of education. Currently, graduation and senior activities are being discussed. These are still questionable times and require advanced planning. Our administrators are working hard to listen to all students impacted. I appreciate any and all who spoke out about your thoughts and what your feelings are. Voices don't go unheard. However, at the end of the day, if we all work together and come to a common ground, it needs to be respected. Vaccines are rolling out, and there is a possibility of a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Spring is here. So let's get outside, breathe some fresh air, and we could all use a positive mental lift because it's definitely been a very long year with COVID. So once again, thank you everybody for all the work that you guys do. Obviously, this is a volunteer board, and I truly do appreciate everyone's time and decisions and discussions that take place. And so thank you, everybody. Let's move on to board action, so that I will give that back to Dr. Willett. I'm sure you will pop that up on the screen for us.
Sure will. So what we have tonight is another of the change orders for the Birch Grove building project. As many of you are now very familiar, we do have a regular reoccurrence of these. Essentially, we'll see these a couple of maybe a week or two at a time. I do think I saw Katie Murray on here, so I'm going to defer to the expert, but I do want to point out that rather than have the 200-page document that we have had before, which everyone was very excited about, but we now have it linked. So you can click on the links. If anybody wants a big 200, 300-page thing, we can give you that. But the links here will take you to each of these items as well. And I'll yield the floor to Ms. Murray.
Thank you, Dr. Willett. I think you summarized it very well. This is the state change order number 3. We need board action to move forward to apply for reimbursement for these items. All these items have already gone through the building committee and all been approved by the building committee, signed by the town manager. So payment has been promised and we'd like to get reimbursed for that.
We like reimbursement.
Very much, and especially on this project, it's very nice.
Perfect. I'd like to open this up to any board members, any questions or discussion. And we have Katie here and also Dana, so you guys can ask those questions. If not, I will entertain a motion, which is, he has it highlighted nicely on our screen.
Madura and Duchantala, motion to accept the documentation related to project 142-0083-N, state change order number 3, presented in the Board of Education meeting of March 24th, 2021, and authorize the superintendent to sign all related documentation and approvals to apply for reimbursement from the state for eligible items.
Dana Philbin, second.
Yeah, at this time, any discussion? Nope. Then therefore we will go to a roll call vote. Anyone in favor can say aye, any opposed can say nay, or you can abstain. Let's go to Dana.
Aye.
Lord.
Aye.
Madhu.
Aye.
Jacob. You said aye, didn't come across, but you did say aye. Sophia.
Aye.
Rini.
Aye.
Griffin.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, therefore this passes unanimously. And I'm assuming Dr. Willett, I will come in tomorrow and sign the paperwork.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Okay, at this time, let's go on to the next public participation. Comments supposed to be limited to items on this agenda. Once again, Jacob will be the 2-minute timer and he will give you a visual and he will vocally let you know when you have 30 seconds left. Once again, when called upon, please list your name and your address. And if you would like to speak at this time, please raise your hand. Alexis.
Hi again, board. I'm Alexis Laporte, 39 Reed Road. I don't believe the 4 senior advisors are truly taking all senior options opinions into account, which is another way my peers and I feel our opinions are being neglected. I have 122 Tolland seniors who have saved a spot for our prom at Manili's and over 680 people who want to see our graduation moved outdoors. The graduation plan and senior activities were all planned without our voice. We all met with Mr. Tolland and were told that all activities will be on site. We were then told that we would have a class night with aspects of prom. Not really sure what that even means, but we're going with it. During planning for class night, we were told how the groups would be split into 4 groups of 55 after repeatedly being shut down with other ideas out of fear for splitting up the senior class. It's, in my opinion, a bit hypocritical to say we can be split up in one aspect, but not the other. We were told that there is no opportunity to hold graduation outside, no prom off campus, and no opportunity to have any real celebrations as all seniors before 2020 were able to enjoy. Then they asked us for our input, but then they didn't take into consideration. Outdoor graduation is the original tradition, with indoor graduation only starting with the senior class in the newly built Tolland High School. Why is it okay to have outside vendors such as food trucks, but we can't attend Holiday Hill for class day or Manili's for class night or an outside prom? Our voice is not being considered. Did they go through the motions? Yes. Did they try to reach for the stars? They did not. Mr. Tolland shared with the board that there are 8 to 12 members on the committee making the decisions, yet decisions are already finalized. I attended one of these meetings. As Dr. Willett pointed out, the turf does not seem to be an option. However, we also give the idea for parking lots. And also another board member read the letter from the 4 class advisors, and I don't feel that it's really much of our opinion. So we would love if my email that was sent out could also be read or considered, because we want the board to have all the opinions. We are planning our own prom for May 20th at Manili's because it's not closed, as I was told. And
humiliated by my class advisors, told me that Meneilly's was closed and that they canceled on us, when in reality, Tolland pulled out of the event and asked for our deposit back. South Windsor, with a class of over 320 students, has their prom booked at Meneilly's. Cheney Tech has it booked at Meneilly's. East Windsor is booked off-site. Ellington is also booked off-site. Tolland High School seniors have to plan their own. We're planning for that prom, and we're doing unaffiliated, and we are doing great. And we have an outdoor location, indoor location, food, dancing, anything that a normal prom would be expected to have. It's going to be about $70 a ticket, so no more than you would expect for an original prom. We have about 144 people already signed up for this prom. It is first come, first serve due to the guidelines right now, but we don't expect to go over this. And if we do, we will comply with this as we see fit. We are okay with planning off-site venues for separate class night and class day prom and reductions as needed. We just would like to see some creativity with our administrators. And you can follow our progress on Instagram at THS Class of 2021 Plans. Today we toured Meneilly's, and we're going to put a down deposit, and we are expecting to have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Let's go to David Laporte.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody can hear me. David Laporte, 39 Reed Road, obviously father. I'm also a teacher at Tolland High School. I'm a coach in Ellington. I've been involved with education for over 30 years. And I'm just a little baffled as to why we're making decisions without really looking at all the possible situations that we could have. As a coach, I'm watching kids play without masks, being distant, and that's okay, but now you're saying we can't dance. I'm looking at people having an indoor graduation, but we can't do outdoor graduation. I think now is the time to plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. And I think if we're doing a hybrid, that could be the second, that could be the backup plan. Let these kids have a prom. This will be the only class in Tolland High School history to date that will not have had a prom. And that's a shame, and graduation, that's all about trying to keep everybody together. We can do that outside. I've been at several high schools that have done outside graduations, and they've never been a problem, whether it's the heat or the number of people, never been a problem. Class day, class night, those are all things that can be arranged, and you have the backup plan. And I don't see why we're not taking in consideration all the other students. And I understand that the 4 class officers have their opinions, but there are several other students that unfortunately
30 seconds.
They might not be expressing their opinions because they don't know how. So I think we owe it to our kids as adults to do what's best for them and not just do what's best for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Steve Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. Steve Jones, 514 Old Stafford Road. Just wanted to kind of reiterate some comments that were made last night at the town council meeting, extending to any Board of Education member working bipartisan, working with my party and the Republican Party to ensure the budget as adopted last night passes overwhelmingly on the first round. So just want to extend that invitation to anyone on the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Let's go to Linda Shadell. Linda Shadell, I don't know if you have it.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
I'm here. Linda Shadell, 81 Morgan Lane. I'm saddened that the Board of Ed needs to find areas to reduce their unanimously approved budget. I have no doubt that Dr. Willett will be able to do this, as he has been able to do this repeatedly over the years. But I can't help but wonder if all 9 of the Board of Ed members spoke at each of the town council meetings in support of their budget, if we would be having a different conversation tonight. Instead, we had only 5 members show their support, 1 member contradict their support, and 3 not even bother to show up. If you had showed a united front for what you all worked so hard for, maybe, just maybe, the town council chair wouldn't have felt the need to further reduce the town manager's suggested budget. I'm disappointed and will keep this in mind come November. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Let's go to Amber.
Hi, Amber Como, 64 Morgan Lane. I just wanted to follow up on what Ms. Plord said earlier in reference to Dana's comment. I know that you said you like to be transparent, and in this situation, you certainly have. I don't feel that you have supported the board. You haven't supported Dr. Willett, and you're not supporting this budget. Last night at the town council meeting, you all but thanked the town council for saving tax dollars for the town. The Board of Ed is supposed to be a committee of people who stand for what is best for the schools and the students of Tolland. If you want to focus on reducing the tax burden to the town, then run for the town council and get off the Board of Education. I apologize if this seems personal, but I felt the door was open for that earlier when you said you had the need to be transparent, and that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Liz Costa.
Hi, everyone. Liz Costa, 54 Josiah Lane. I'll let you know that this was written before the original public participation, but ran out of time. I am concerned about the budget process that took 10 to 12 weeks of long nights, many committee meetings, on top of full board action. My concern is about the transparency of all in the process. I'm not sure why the board vice chair, who led most of the process in the absence of the chair due to maternity leave, decided to vote yes to this 3.19 budget put forth to the town council, and then chose not to support the same body of work when faced by the town manager and then the town council further reducing it. I'm concerned that a yes to a budget means different things to different people. If you can't support those that you need to sell this to, then why say yes? What other information do you need? When does the testimony of the many people that wrote letters, spoke in public participation, outweigh one family? I'd like for the board members to uphold and defend the budgets you put forth. Otherwise, move over for someone else that truly cares about Tolland education. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. At this time, any other members of the public? Because then I will go to our board members. And if not, okay, let's go to the points of information. And at this point, I will open it up to board members, and I will go to Griffin.
Thank you, Ashley. I just wanted to say that I'm really disappointed, but not surprised at the members of the public who are going after Ms. Plord for speaking her mind and being transparent. Now, this was a tough budget year, and I completely support her. And I also feel that she supported myself and the rest of this board with supporting this budget. We did work tirelessly on this budget. We spent many hours on it, many committee meetings. And I, for one, did not speak at any town council meetings. And not that I think that I owe anybody any explanation, but I had numerous one-on-one discussions with both sides, Republican and Democrat, on the town council, because I felt in my position, it was easier and better to discuss why I was supporting this budget. And I don't know, maybe Ms. Plord had the same discussions with some members of the council as well. But we absolutely supported this budget, and it's beyond frustrating to me that no matter what we say, no matter what we do, you throw out this, you unanimously supported this budget, but you're still never happy with the outcome. And frankly, I'm just sick and tired of the constant reprimands, or, you know, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say the negativity, the backlash, whatever you want to call it, when we do absolutely support this budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Rini.
Thank you, Ashley. I would just like to respond to the comment about board members who didn't bother to show up. You know, I was out of town, and I do have some things in my personal life that I have to attend to sometimes. I can't be at every town council meeting. I try the best I can to be at every committee meeting that I'm supposed to be at. I actually did go to a committee meeting while I was out of town because it was required. And, you know, it's a little upsetting to be called out on the carpet for not making a town council meeting. I did vote for the budget. Things did change from the time that we voted for the budget in terms of some of the stimulus, but regardless, I just wanted to address the fact of why I wasn't at the meeting for the town council.
Okay, thank you, Rini. Let's go to Plord.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Griffin, for standing up for me. I would like to, thank the members of the audience that have always, constructively criticized me. I don't view it as a personal attack. I view it as, the reason I'm here and the reason I'm here again, even after having another baby, is that I didn't feel my voice was heard. And I do care about the Tolland education system. I have a kindergartner and I have a 2-year-old, and I want to make sure that my family can stay here and that they get a great education, and I think we have that, and I think we can get along as a community and move forward in a positive way instead of pointing fingers. So that's all really I have to say to that. And to Alexis, if she is still on, I just want to tell you, remember, when you don't feel heard, keep that seat at the table.
Thank you, Plord. Let's go to Madhu.
So I also wanted to actually say congratulations to Alexandra Costa for being named valedictorian. I didn't get to do that earlier. So I just wanted to say, congratulations. And, regarding senior activities, it doesn't appear to me that anything is being taken off the table based on the presentation tonight, based on the answers that were given. It doesn't appear that anything is being taken off the table. So, before we start going down an alternate prom route, I think we need to let the process play out. Make your voice heard on that committee. And follow the proper channels. But that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's go to Dana.
Thank you, Ashley. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody who's had the time to speak this evening. To Alexis and her peers that feel very strongly in regards to the petition and letters. And again, I would say, I don't know what Christina said, but find that seat on the table. I think it's what you said. I think it's super important to find your seat on the table and continue to be the voice. Because right now that seat at the table is so important for the folks that are in your corner or seeing your point of view. You need to keep making sure your voices are heard from all aspects of whatever side of the table that you're on. So make sure you're in that seat. I would just continue to go to meetings, continue, email and get involved on the committee. As far as the comments on the budget, again, I've been pretty clear that I supported the 3.19. I've been pretty clear that I've tried to represent all Tolland constituents, all Tolland students. I feel that my elected seat as a Board of Ed member can come with heat, can come with criticism, but I also think that there are going to be things that our constituents are going to say, whether it's in public participation, in email, on social media, or what have you. It's not my job as a Board of Ed member to defend myself in a public manner and talk to our constituents in a negative, condescending tone. It's my job to listen to what the constituents had to say and try to look in the mirror and see what I can do better to ensure that I'm representing all those constituents. Last night, I heard someone on the town council meeting say that they're there to represent and to speak up for the folks who voted for them. And that really hit me hard. And I took a long, hard look, because my job as an elected body of the Board of Education is not to represent the people who elected me, but my job is to represent the entire town of Tolland and the entire students and faculty of Tolland, whether they elected me or not. So to those folks who spoke up at public participation in all capacities, please continue to speak up. We are supposed to be the ears. We are supposed to be listening to you. We're supposed to be hearing you. We're supposed to be absorbing what you have to say, and do our best as an elected body to represent all of you. I respect you, I hear you, and I would hope that you would continue to communicate. And I hope that my peers take a good look in the mirror and do our best to respect our constituents. It's going to be hard. It's going to be negative. Some of it's not going to be something we agreed about, but it is something that we signed up for as elected officials, whether it's volunteer or not. Criticism is hard when you're in leadership and management or in any role capacity. As Christina said, she's been criticized quite a lot and she takes it in stride, so I appreciate that. I think that we should all learn a little bit from that and move forward. So for those of you folks who spoke this evening, continue speaking, whether it's something that you think I agree with or not, I'm listening. So thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Dana. Flora, your hand is still up or up from before?
No, I just forgot to say, I think Alexis had wanted to read her email. I know how you feel about reading emails. Can we include it in the minutes?
I don't have a problem with including it in the minutes.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay. I know that a couple people reached out, as many people have noticed that Clara was on the meeting with me for town council, and thank you guys for the emails. And, you know, it definitely is, it's hard being a volunteer and, you know, having the family, having the other things to do. But, you know, when it truly comes down to it, you know, we do advocate and fight for our students. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's only so much that you can do. Even when I spoke to the town council, you know, Clara made her presence known and she was awfully loud. I do know that I asked a few people that were on there if I was heard, and I did get a couple texts back saying, yes, you were at least heard. So that made me happy, because you never know. And with a little screaming baby, it is difficult. But, you know, at the end of the day, I do think that every board member did fight for our budget. You know, it's the largest one that we've had, and I mean, it still needs to go to referendum. And I do think that we as a board need to make sure that we are together to fight for what we can, but we also need to be able to, like Steve Jones had said, that we need to work together. That's the only way that things are going to get accomplished, is to have that bipartisan, to have that conversation. And like I said, I love that Steve Jones had come on and had said that tonight. And I think it is important to come across, because if we're still fighting and bickering and we're going to a referendum, and then if it gets cut more, I mean, we still need to be a team, still go through and still passionately have that fight for the advocacy of our students and for our budget. Like I said, also in my chair report, you know, I do have faith in FFC and Dr. Willett that we will be able to figure out some ways of trying to ensure that the essential programs are going to stay in place and that we would be able to fund them. I know Dr. Willett's already been working on that. The man does not sleep. I am 100% sure of that. He might be a robot or a zombie, I'm not sure. But I do appreciate all the work that he puts into the budget and to our school system. They're definitely gone back and forth in the middle of the night saying, what's happening with this? And he's right there to respond. And, you know, I appreciate it. So thank you very much, Dr. Willett. And for Alexis, like I said, it is the time now to get on board and to join the group of students. I think that it is important to have your voice heard. Like Flora said, I believe all of us at one point or another probably would have been that student that started the petition. And that's why we're here today. And I think all of us can maybe talk to that a little bit. And I think that it is important. And like I said, it's civic engagement. It starts young and it continues throughout your life. And I do think it is important to ensure that you do follow protocols. As everybody knows, I like to ensure that we do things by the rules. And so if you could join in and, you know, make yourself known with Mr. Poland and the advisors. And I feel like that is the best starting place for to have that conversation, the dialogue that needs to happen. Obviously the board is here and we try to respond to everything, but a lot of times stuff gets out of control and out of hand. But that is a good place for you to start, is with Mr. Poland and the group of the students. And I think if you can join in and grab some other your friends that are on the petition who would like to see changes made, That's the only way you're going to be able to really make a difference and an impact, is to get those students who want to make a change, join up and talk to Mr. Poland, talk to the other students. I mean, there was 12 students, 4 of them were class officers. So really, at the end of the day, you only have another 8 students who are there. Join in, make your voices heard. It's important. And that obviously we still have state mandates that we have to go through, but I do think that it is important to get engaged and involved. So thank you very much for everything. And if anybody else has anything else at this point in time, if not, we do not have future or new business. So I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Madeira and DiChantala, motion to adjourn at
Jacob Murray,
9:45.
second. Jacob Murray, second.
Okay, I don't believe there's going to be any discussion about this, but discussion. All those in favor can say aye. Any opposed can say nay, or you can abstain. Let's do a roll call vote. So let's go to Madhu.
Aye.
Lord.
Aye.
Dana.
Aye.
Griffin.
Aye.
Rini.
Aye.
Jacob.
Aye.
Sophia.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Therefore, we will adjourn at 9:45. Have a great night, everybody.
You too.
Bye, guys.
Good
Bye,
night.
everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.